The senator who gives this tale its title has but a minor part to play in it. And once the tale is told, you may well protest that it should have been called something else entirely. But I like the title, and I'm keeping it. Though the senator lacks a leading role, he's of some significance in the story, not least as an observer of English ways. It is as such, indeed, that he's come to England. He wishes to learn about the state of our nation.
The plan, Mr. Gotobed, is to spend 2 weeks in town.
2 weeks? Fine.
And then we'll go down to Bragton Park.
Which is?
Near Dillsborough.
Bragton's your home now, is it?
Yes, it's been the family seat for centuries. But I've hardly set foot in the place since I inherited it. Work in the Foreign Office has rather kept me away.
We have arrived in London in the autumn of 1874. We are in a cab on our way to the Langham Hotel. The American is Mr. Elias Gotobed. The Englishman is Mr. John Morton, until very recently Secretary of the Legation in Washington, and now on 4 months' leave of absence. Mr. Morton is a solid, virtuous man, known to his Foreign Office colleagues as the Paragon.
Excuse me, what is that object?
Sorry?
The large red cylinder on the corner. I've noticed one or two before.
That's a pillar box. A receptacle for letters that require posting.
Right, a pillar box. Well, splendid. So, tell me, Mr. Morton, who shall I meet when we go to Bragton? Is there a large tribe of Morton relations to be found there?
No, afraid not. The house is empty at present. I have a cousin, Reginald, somewhat older than myself, but he lives in the other, smaller family home.
I'll see him, shall I?
I would hope so. Can't be sure. Haven't seen him myself for more than 20 years.
Good Lord. Have you quarreled?
But I don't expect that she'll bestow her approval. She never approves of anything.
Shortly before he left Washington, John Morton, the Paragon, had surprised himself somewhat, and surprised others rather more, by becoming engaged to Arabella Trefoil. Arabella was the niece of a duke, it's true, but those who knew her knew that she'd had many lovers and had been engaged to several. Those who knew her concluded that the Paragon had not chosen wisely in choosing Miss Trefoil.
So, my dear, are you glad to be back in England?
I'm glad to be back on dry land.
And are you glad, I wonder, about your choice of husband?
You spotted him, Mamma.
True.
He was the last man in the world that I'd have considered myself. He's quiet, pleasant, dull, but he has a sort of status, I suppose. Diplomats do have status, do they not? And he harbours no special vices, as far as I can tell.
No, my dear. There's a degree of doubt, though, about the money.
I believe he has some, Mamma.
If he had none, Arabella, I wouldn't have suggested him. But you see, since we've returned, I've made further inquiries, and I find that Mr. John Morton is beginning to disappoint me. It seems that such money as he has, he intends to be careful about. Settlements, the allowance, life insurance, residence in town, he refuses to be drawn on such matters. I'm not at all sure that it will do.
It must be pointed out in the daughter's favour that she was not addicted to pleasures, or even to money, except that it could buy diamonds. What she wanted most of all was to be a great lady, one who would be invited everywhere, even by those who hated her. Women's hatred, by the way, she rather enjoyed. And for a man to fall in love with her counted as nothing unless the man could confer the greatness she desired. Whether John Morton was such a man remained to be seen.
The Trefoils come on Monday, Grandmother.
So soon? I've only just accustomed myself to the senator, if one can do such a thing.
You don't much like him?
Well, a member of Congress can't be an English gentleman. And he does ask so many questions.
He does. I must find him a few people to interrogate while he's here. I feel I might tire of his company.
He'll be able to talk to the Trefoils.
True, though he got to know them well enough in Washington. I could invite my cousin over.
Your cousin? No.
Why not? I can't turn my back on him for the rest of my life.
Perhaps you can't, but I will. Hoppet Hall is rightfully yours.
Grandmother...
It belongs to the legitimate side of the Morton family.
Grandmother...
And therefore Reginald Morton is a usurper. And if he ever visits here, I won't speak to him or eat at the same table.
John Morton saw no point in resisting Mrs. Morton's intransigence, and for the time being, the task of keeping the senator company was entirely Mr. Morton's own.
Good Lord! I've never seen so many dogs.
Hounds, they're generally called.
Are you a hunter, Mr. Morton?
No, I'm not a hunter.
I am, or was. I had to kill to eat, and I didn't have a pack of dogs to help me. So, how's it arranged? Do the fellows bring a fox with them to make sure of a good chase?
No.
What if they don't find a fox? They go home happy, do they?
Far from it.
All that time, all that expense for nothing in return. It's a strange business.
There's Lord Rufford.
Huh?
Over there, look, by the wall.
Oh, a lord, huh?
Met him a few times in London. Come, I'll introduce you.
The introduction was effected. But then the Master of Hounds exchanged whispered words with Lord Rufford, and a man with a gun appeared, and there was something of a commotion, which only died down when the hunt moved on.
Mr. Morton, what was all the fuss?
A fox has been poisoned, and they think it was that fellow over there with the gun.
Why would he have poisoned it?
To save his birds, I suppose.
Well, it sounds reasonable to me. What was he shouting about?
He was issuing a threat. He'll shoot any hounds, he says, that come onto his land.
I can understand that, too.
Perhaps you can, Mr. Gotobed. But you'd better not say so too loudly. Shooting at hounds and poisoning foxes isn't judged to be acceptable practice.
Spoils the fun, huh, for all those nicely dressed jockeys?
Well,
I tell you, Mr. Morton, sir, I respect that man with the gun. He was defending his rights, that's all.
there they are, Grandmother.
Yes.
Lady Augustus. Arabella, it's good to see you both. How are you?
Very tired.
Oh, dear.
Very tired and very put out. The carriage had a most disagreeable smell.
Oh.
Tuesday afternoon at Dillsborough Station. No observer of this little scene would have been in any danger of imagining that Arabella Trefoil and John Morton were lovers, anticipating a shared life of bliss. She managed to smile for him, but it was one such as certain women offer to anybody who addresses them. And as for Lady Augustus, her gaze was already turned away from the welcoming party, as if she'd decided to take offence.
Lady Augustus, Arabella, may I...
Where are the porters?
May I introduce Mrs. Morton, my grandmother?
Where are they, for goodness sake?
I never saw such rudeness in my entire life. And all that fuss about the carriage is intolerable.
They were a little fatigued by the journey, I think.
Fatigued? In my view, no true lady, should ever be too fatigued to conduct herself with politeness.
Will you join them before dinner?
Well, yes, John, of course I shall. I, at least, have not abandoned propriety. But you mustn't expect me to make them feel at home in this place. I should never want them to feel that.
Poor John Morton. His austere grandmother and the annoying American had already put him out of sorts. Now he found that the new visitors were not at all as they'd been in Washington. Arabella was so cold towards him, Lady Augustus so disagreeable. How was he to manage? More to the point, how would he manage with cold Arabella when she was his wife? It was the mother's fault, he tried to tell himself. All would be well once the appalling Lady Augustus was out of the way.
This house is like a barracks. He might have put a few things in it to make it look half decent.
I don't suppose that he thinks there's much point. He lives abroad so much of the time.
Arabella, he'll have to be home for at least part of the year. And so will his wife. And the wife's relations. It was an act of sheer impudence to invite us here without furnishing the place.
He did say something about its condition, Mamma.
Nonsense. If he told me the truth, I'd have stayed away. His purpose, it's clear, is to part with as little as possible, either now or when he marries. 1,200 a year is all he's offering, and it won't do.
It must do, I suppose. You and I shall get by.
Get by? You are not marrying John Morton or anybody to get by. And I don't remember him warning us about the grandmother either. Hideous old termagant. If she's to become a fixture in the house, then there's no hope for you.
Mamma, please.
It won't do, and it's my duty to tell you so. You may be very much in love with Mr. Morton.
I'm not, and you know it. Mamma, this kind of talk was all very well 10 years ago.
10 years ago? Arabella, you were almost in your cradle 10 years ago.
No, Mamma. I was a single woman. And in the years since then, I've worked extremely hard to alter that condition and to achieve as favourable a result as possible. I've worked harder, it seems to me, than most men work to earn their pay. And I'm becoming tired of it all. Tired of all the effort involved. I don't care for Mr. Morton any more than I'll ever care for anybody. But for the time being, I'm prepared to marry him.
For the time being? You mean you're prepared to have second thoughts?
Perhaps. But I don't want him breaking off the engagement till I've finally made up my mind. If I like, I can always put an end to it myself. After all, nobody knows about it yet. Nobody in London, at least.
Mr. Morton, good afternoon.
And to you, Miss Masters.
What a pleasant surprise. How are you?
I'm very well. Doing nothing suits me. Indeed, if you knew my lazy routine, you'd have thought it no surprise, pleasant or otherwise, to find me here.
This Mr. Morton is Reginald, the cousin of John. He's tall, he's handsome, and he has chosen to live alone. For Whitton spent 12 or more years there, until Lady Ushant was obliged to leave. They were happy years, during which Mary became very dear to Lady Ushant, and a friend of Reginald too.
Mary, why don't we revive old memories? Take a look at the place.
We won't go too near to the house, I think.
No. But a stroll through the grounds won't do any harm. How is your father?
He's well, thank you.
And your stepmother?
Yes, she's well too.
Now, we have a stile to negotiate.
Mary was in the act of putting out her hand so that she could be helped over the stile, when a young man appeared on the other side.
Mr. Twentyman.
No.
Oh, Lawrence.
Larry, please. Afternoon, Mary. Afternoon, Mr. Morton.
Good afternoon.
I was just about to walk around the Bragton grounds.
Yes.
With Mr. Morton.
Right. Well, perhaps I could come with you.
Miss Masters, I hadn't realised you were intending to meet Mr. Twentyman and walk back with him to Dillsborough.
No, I wasn't. Was I, Mr. Twentyman?
Mr. Twentyman smiled at Mary from the other side of the stile and said nothing.
In truth, I didn't expect to meet either of you. Oh dear. What a shame I can't go in both directions simultaneously.
Mary thought, in truth, that she would very much have liked to continue the walk with Mr. Morton. She would have liked to see her old friend much more frequently than she had since she left the care of Lady Ushant and returned to her family. And Lawrence Twentyman, it must be said, was not so dear to her as she was to him. Nevertheless, she saw that Mr. Morton was firmly set against Mr. Twentyman joining the tour of the grounds, and therefore she walked back towards Dillsborough with Lawrence Twentyman by her side.
He was cross.
Was he?
I rather think so. Are you cross, too?
No, Lawrence. I'm not cross.
It would appear that I've done the wrong thing, but I can't for the life of me see how.
Lawrence Twentyman was a farmer, and he was very much in love with Mary. He was, by temperament, a jealous man, but he was not at all jealous of Reginald Morton. It had never occurred to him, indeed, to link Mary and Mr. Morton. Mary was merely the daughter of an attorney, while Lawrence's somewhat mystified view of Reginald placed the latter as a man of status and scholarship. Not only that, but heavens, the fellow was 40 years old. At Bragton the following morning, John Morton and Arabella took a stroll in the garden.
Well, my dear, are you feeling a little better after a night's rest?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I am.
Arabella turned her face towards John Morton and smiled her sweetest smile, though it was not perhaps what you or I would deem particularly sweet. She was making her peace as best she could in order to ensure, for the present at least, that the engagement was safe.
It was good of you to come and meet us at the station.
Oh, not at all.
And I'm sorry that Mamma and I were not quite as gracious as we might have been.
My dear Arabella, you need say no more.
He gazed at her. She was, he decided, very beautiful, and he ought to be proud of her, and he ought to be happy. He'd been trying hard to persuade himself of his happiness. Was he in love with her? He was painfully anxious to know, but he couldn't be certain. And he rather doubted if she was in love with him.
So, my dear, what would you care to do in the next few days? Would you like to ride?
Yes, perhaps.
Would you like to visit a few places in the neighbourhood?
Yes, perhaps.
There's Norrington, Rufford.
Ah, Rufford, yes. His lordship's place, I assume, is quite near there.
Quite near? Do you know Lord Rufford?
We encountered each other in town just a week ago.
Oh, he's at Rufford Hall at present.
Yes, he told me he would be.
They were silent for a while, and then Arabella, claiming she was cold, retreated indoors, leaving John Morton alone with his thoughts.
Mr. Morton.
Though not for long.
Ah, Mr. Gotobed.
A word, if I may. How about that business with the poisoned fox and the unfortunate man they accused, Mr. Gourley? I hear now that Lord Rufford is the owner of the wood that's next to Mr. Gourley's land.
That's right.
And Lord Rufford breeds his foxes there. And Mr. Gourley, previous to the poisoning, had said that 2 of his cornfields had been damaged.
Prejudice was not generally considered to be as reputable or reliable an attorney as the father of Mary Masters.
Mr. Gourley is a poor man.
Undoubtedly.
A rather ignorant man, too, and not altogether as good a member of society as he ought to be.
That may be so, but his case is a strong one nonetheless.
It is, in theory at least. The situation, I believe, is that Lord Rufford has regularly paid a certain amount to Mr. Gourley in recompense for crop damage that the hunt regularly caused.
But the amount was fixed by Lord Rufford, and he didn't like to have it questioned.
Exactly.
That, Mr. Bearside, is the might of rank and money, hell-bent on having its own way.
Exactly.
That's feudalism, Mr. Bearside. Feudalism.
Feudalism, yes, exactly. Lord Rufford is a most determined and powerful man, while Mr. Gourley, as I may have hinted, is exceedingly poor and has no influence. I'd half promised the fellow I'd take up his case out of charity, you understand, since he is so very poor.
That was extremely good of you, sir.
But of course I can't afford to be out of pocket. Can't work without payments. And therefore, Mr. Gotobed, I don't quite see how I'm going to proceed.
Well, the case mustn't be dropped simply for lack of funds.
It would be a pity if it were. A great pity.
Oh, you're right. It would. Tell you what, I'll give you $50 if you see the business through.
A few days later, John Morton received a letter in which he, Mr. Gotobed and the Trefoils were invited by Lord Rufford to stay at Rufford Hall. He himself had no wish to go. He had no wish, if he did go, to take Mr. Gotobed, whose involvement in the business between Gourley and Lord Rufford was threatening to be an embarrassment. But he decided it wouldn't be fair to deprive the investigative senator of a few days' residence at the home of a lord, and the Trefoils would have to be included too. Arabella, he was confident, would be somewhat peeved if she got to hear about the invitation after the event.
And there's to be a meet on Tuesday, you say?
Yes, and a dance in the evening.
You're intending to go, are you?
Well, I won't go if I'm going alone. I'm not one for hunting or dancing.
I have no mount, of course.
True, though... wait a moment. Yes, Rufford mentions that he has a horse which may be suitable. All this would interfere with your plan to visit the Pilkingtons.
Oh, I can easily put them off for a day or two, if I want.
And do you?
Well...
You wouldn't find it a bore?
Possibly. I'll see what Mamma thinks.
Yes, do that.
We must go, Mamma. We can't give up a chance such as this. The only reason Lord Rufford sent the invitation is because he knows we're here.
Well, yes, my dear, naturally. I don't suppose he wishes to become better acquainted with Mr. Morton.
He has £40,000 a year, Mamma.
Yes. Now, other girls know that too, and they've been unsuccessful. But I don't mind if you try. I've always said John Morton wouldn't do.
You didn't always say that.
I'm certain of it now, after nearly a week in this godforsaken place.
I won't be throwing myself at his lordship. I've no intention yet of spoiling my situation here. But a stay at Rufford Hall, it can't do any harm.
After his unfortunate encounter with Lawrence Twentyman, Reginald had promised himself that he'd keep away from Mary, and had vowed not to trouble his mind about a girl who could happily rush into Mr. Twentyman's arms. In truth, he wasn't sure if he should be troubled about any girl. Such conduct didn't seem to be part of the life he'd planned. But he'd received an inquiry which demanded an answer from Mary, and he found that this was reason enough to go straight to the house of Mr. Masters, Mary's father, and pay her a call.
My aunt has written. She wants you to stay with her at Cheltenham.
That's extremely kind of her.
For a month or so, she suggests.
A month?
From the first week in December and through the Christmas period. Would you like to?
Of course I would. Lady Ushant is my dearest, dearest friend. But I doubt if I can go.
Why not?
My stepmother, I fear, won't be able to spare me, particularly at Christmas.
That's unfortunate. Lady Ushant will be most disappointed.
And so shall I.
Still, you have delights enough in Dillsborough.
What do you mean?
It doesn't matter. Forgive me. I haven't offended you, I hope.
No, Mr. Morton. Or if I am offended, I think I ought not to be. The fact is, I'd go and see your aunt if it were possible. And though she's so extremely kind to me, I've no reason to expect other people to be the same.
Miss Masters, I'm very sorry about what happened the other day.
I'm sorry too. I could see that you were angry. And it may well have been wrong for Mr. Twentyman to offer to join us, but what could I do? You were too grand for Mr. Twentyman, and therefore you were too grand for me.
That's an unkind way of putting it. I'm an old friend of yours, and we'd met, and I wanted to talk with you about Bragton and former times. There's nothing grand about that. Nor do I set myself above Mr. Twentyman.
I think you do.
No, it wouldn't be right. He earns his daily bread, which is more than I can boast.
Nonetheless, there is a distance, a difference between the two of you. We both know that. And therefore you consider Mr. Twentyman to be an unsuitable companion for me. But I beg to differ.
He looked at her. He'd hoped she would be able to visit Lady Ushant. He'd intended to go with her, despite his earlier determination to avoid her company. But now it seemed that, in spite of the advantages of her upbringing, Mary had become persuaded that Lawrence Twentyman was her equal in rank, and she'd chosen him as the man she was to marry. Perhaps, he reasoned, it was better that she shouldn't visit Lady Ushant.
Well, anyhow, will you write to my aunt?
Of course I shall. And I'll ask Papa to let you know what's been agreed.
He thanked her brusquely and departed, and Mary, left alone, was vexed with herself.
I shouldn't have spoken of Lawrence like that. It was wrong. It was perverse.
Mary's friends, her stepmother, Mr. Twentyman himself, all were convinced that marriage to the young farmer was the appropriate, inevitable step for her. But Mary knew that the numerous benefits she'd received from Lady Ushant had made her quite unfit for such a match.
I almost wish I'd never known Lady Ushant, or spent all those years at Bragton. What use were they? They've served no purpose, save to set me at odds with my present life.
There had been occasions when she decided, or thought she had, that she ought to marry Lawrence. But it must be admitted that the more she was in the company of Reginald, the less disposed she was towards such an idea.
And yet, just now...
Just now, she told Reginald...
To punish him, I suppose.
She told him that Lawrence was a suitable companion.
Oh, Mary, you are such a wretched, stupid creature.
I take it then that the answer is yes. You'll go to Rufford Hall.
We will. Mamma informs me that she's particularly anxious to renew the acquaintance of Lord Rufford's sister. So you see the matter settled.
And do you intend to ride the fellow's horse while you're there?
Most certainly. I never refuse a good offer. Can't a young lady borrow a gentleman's horse?
No lady of mine would do so, unless the gentleman was a very close friend.
But, Mr. Morton, I'm not yet your lady, and therefore I shall ride Lord Rufford's horse. Perhaps you could indicate as much when you write your letter of reply.
John Morton was no fool. He strongly suspected that Lord Rufford's invitation had been prompted by his interest in Arabella, and that the latter's show of detachment masked a strong desire to renew her acquaintance with his lordship. But it must be said, Mr. Morton had derived scant pleasure from Arabella's stay at Bragton, and he was dolefully inclined to let events at Rufford Hall unfold, come what may, and to discover thereby if his suspicions were correct. There remained the matter of transport.
I suppose that Mamma and I'd better go in the phaeton.
Ah, I thought that you and I might be together.
That would be very pleasant, it's true.
Then why can't it happen?
There are proprieties, Mr. Morton.
Proprieties? What if you and I were going on our own? Wouldn't we share a carriage?
Certainly not. If we were to be on our own, then I wouldn't go at all. You've been in the States too long. You've become accustomed to somewhat looser principles.
That's nonsense, Arabella, nonsense. But if you're so anxious about proprieties, we'll put Mr. Gotobed in the phaeton on his own, and your mother can chaperone us in the carriage.
Oh, yes. And you and she will quarrel all the time, as you always do.
The fact is, you're ashamed of me.
Don't be ridiculous.
You've only to say the word, and we can end the engagement straight away.
Is that what you want, Mr. Morton?
You know very well that it isn't. I'd be happy to marry you tomorrow.
If so, I wonder why you've created so many difficulties.
You're talking about the money, I suppose.
I assure you, Mr. Morton, I prefer not to talk about money at all, and I understand very little about it. But there are, I believe, such things as marriage settlements.
Indeed there are, in respect of which I have received...
Discovered the truth. Not what people tell me is true. And even if Gourley is a rogue, whose fault is that?
Meanwhile, in a carriage some distance ahead...
I'm wondering, Mamma, whether we might not have treated Mr. Morton rather badly.
I think we've treated him as well as he deserves. What a house to bring us to, and what a witch of a grandmother to inflict on us. And then there's the vulgar American, too.
Well, I'm not afraid of the grandmother. And the senator will be going back to Washington eventually.
And you, my dear, will very shortly be at Rufford Hall.
Yes.
You haven't given up on his lordship already?
No. But I fear that it will either be most troublesome or, more likely, will result in nothing at all. Lord Rufford, I suspect, is only amusing himself with his invitation.
Well, perhaps, my dear. But if he were to let his guard down and say the word, or something like it at least, we wouldn't allow him to take it back. We'd inform the Duke.
The Duke? What would Lord Rufford care about the Duke?
This Duke, I should inform you, is the Duke of Mayfair. I'll not venture to comment on what Lord Rufford's estimation of the Duke might be. It's enough for you to know that Lady Augustus has a husband, Lord Augustus, who isn't much of a husband. The two never live together now. And that the Duke of Mayfair is Lord Augustus's brother.
The fact is, Mamma, that unless I'm clever, I could fall between two stools. I could founder with his lordship and fail with Mr. Morton too, by dint of trying with Rufford. And then, oh, Mamma, I should have to begin all over again, or else give up entirely.
There was silence while Arabella weighed up her situation. She knew, of course, that she didn't like Bragton Park, and she didn't much like John Morton now that he'd taken up residence there. Back in England, he seemed to Arabella to have diminished in importance. The truth is, now that he was captured, now that he was no longer the object of Arabella's predatory instinct, John Morton, like any man, was bound to appear less interesting. And he'd done himself no favours by being viewed in the barren wastes of his country home.
Of course, if he had a pot of money, it might help his cause a little. But Mr. Morton has made no such pot visible.
Nevertheless, Arabella was very tired of the strain and dust of battle. She was conscious, too, of her fading charms.
Lord Rufford would be a great prize. I must make the attempt. I'd be foolish not to. But this attempt shall be my last. If not Lord Rufford, then Mr. Morton.
Here we are, my dear.
Yes.
Charming, is it not?
Yes.
And very extensive, too, I think.
Yes. Very.
The Trefoils reached Rufford Hall some minutes in advance of Mr. Morton and the senator, Arabella having given her driver firm instruction not to wait for the other vehicle. As a result, and as Arabella had calculated, she was able to make her entrance unencumbered by the two gentlemen, and with much better effect.
Tell me, Miss Trefoil, what have you done with your senator?
He's on the road somewhere, examining English institutions. But he'll arrive before midnight, I'm sure.
You've heard about Mr. Gourley, have you?
Oh, yes. We've heard far too much about Mr. Gourley.
The senator thought he shouldn't be visiting here as a guest without first informing me that he'd got involved in the matter. I rather like him for that. He has pluck. You met him in Washington, I suppose?
That's right.
In fact, that was where our little group at Bragton first got together. It was decided between us that we should reconvene in England.
These remarks were phrased in order to account for Arabella's presence in Bragton without referring to John Morton and the engagement. Indeed, though the senator's non-appearance had been discussed, not a word had yet been said of Mr. Morton. He was merely a peg on which the invitation to the Trefoils had been hung, and the tacit assumption had been made that he should be treated as such. Arabella looked around the room, gazed at the drapes.
So much superior to the dingy curtains at Bragton.
She looked into the mirrors and at the lights and the paintings and the decor.
This is where I should be.
The air of wealth and idleness floated about her.
This is what I've worked so hard for.
She knew that she was undertaking a dangerous scheme, but everything seemed to smile on her and work upon her imagination, so that before the tardy wheels that were bringing Messrs. Morton and Gotobed had stopped at the front door, she'd almost convinced herself that she was destined to become Lady Rufford. And when the two gentlemen did arrive, she hardly spoke to them, and Lady Augustus didn't speak to them at all. John Morton fell into desultory discourse with one or two other guests, while those with Lord Rufford found that the conversation turned, inevitably, to the topic of horses.
I've been wondering, Miss Trefoil, whether you should ride Jemima or Jack. Jemima doesn't much like carrying men, it's true, but she's never been tried with a lady.
Then she mustn't be tried with Arabella, huh? My dear, you mustn't even think of such a thing.
Mamma, I'm sure it isn't Lord Rufford's intention to have me killed. Still, you'd better tell me, please, about Jack.
Scrambles over everything, never falls.
But of course I'd get no plaudits for riding him.
None at all. On Jemima, the glory would endure till your dying day.
Yes, which might be considerably sooner than I'd hoped for.
The matter was still unsettled when Mr. Gotobed joined the debate, and offered his own equestrian observations.
An Englishman, in my view, has no knowledge of how to ride.
Is that so?
Mm-hmm. To learn properly, he'd have to be on a pacing horse, California or Mexico. 80 miles a day with a heavy rider. Now, that's nothing for a pacing horse. But by the way, Lord Rufford, your sister has already pardoned me for interfering in the Gourley affair.
I was sure she would.
Yes, she sees you as a foreigner who knows no better.
A foreigner? Hardly. Americans are 2/3 English. But the remaining third, we think, is a considerable improvement.
John Morton all this while was offering smiles, nods, and politenesses towards the dull guests he'd been marooned with. But his ear was intent on the nearby tone of Arabella's voice. At Bragton, it seemed to him, she'd never once spoken as if anything interested her in the slightest. But here, in the company of the pleasure-loving aristocrat, she'd become alive. John Morton was angry with her, angry with Lord Rufford, angry and ashamed. He wanted to protest. He wanted to shout out, "That lady there is engaged to me." He went to bed early. The Trefoils retired a little later.
I wish I could break my arm tomorrow.
Break your arm?
Or my leg. The leg would be better. I could be laid up here for weeks on end. Perhaps I should ride Jemima. Or, if I choose Jack, I could chuck myself off as we went over a gate. What do you think, Mamma?
You've seen who's on Jemima, have you?
Yes, Major Caneback. You know, I might have managed her as well as the Majors do.
Much better, I'm sure. Though, you and Jack do look very happy together.
We're already the best of friends. Mr. Morton.
None other.
You found yourself a horse, I see.
He had, but he'd found no proper clothes to go with it. The morning coat and the long, heavy trousers weighed him down and embarrassed him, and he knew in his heart that, dressed in this fashion, and perched so awkwardly on his mount, he was nothing in Arabella's eyes. She, of course, was resplendent, and John Morton had to admit to himself, though not to Arabella, that hunting attire became her wonderfully.
Nice morning.
Isn't it?
Are you happy with your beast, Mr. Morton?
It'll do. I only intend to go a little way.
Oh, as you prefer. What about you, Miss Trefoil? Are you keen on the chase?
Most certainly.
Good. I like a girl who rides to hounds.
Arabella made a firm resolution that, come what may, she'd be there at the kill.
If you give me a lead, Lord Rufford, I'll follow.
To which request Lord Rufford assented. It would have seemed churlish to refuse. They rode through the park, and great interest was aroused by Jemima's frantic efforts to get rid of Major Caneback. The Major, indeed, was urged to abandon her, but he wasn't one to give in easily.
Get married? Jack will be the first present I bestow.
She'll be a lucky woman, my lord.
They rode on, and with Jack's help, Arabella managed marvellously. And though she knew so little about it all, she managed to keep on her horse and keep up with Lord Rufford. And quite close to them now, remarkably, was Major Caneback, a brief account of whose adventures on and off Jemima was relayed to Lord Rufford.
He's had a fall, has he?
He's had 3 or 4, Adamson says. Shoulder badly hurt. That's the worst of the Major. He never knows when to stop. Now, go a little to the left. There's a ditch and a fence. Worried at all?
Not a bit.
Good. Give him his head. He'll do it.
But by this time, Major Caneback had come rushing up alongside, his features distorted by the anger he felt towards his recalcitrant steed. His hat was crushed, and his left hand was barely able to grip the reins. Mud covered him, and the horse was coated with foam, and her sides had been sliced by the Major's spurs.
Major!
Yes, Lord Rufford!
The Major was to the right, Lord Rufford to the left, and Arabella was between them.
Take care, Major!
Right out!
Take care! We need room!
The Major's horse went first. She rushed at the fence, went headlong into the ditch, and lunged out at the Major as he tried to rise. He lurched back towards the feet of Arabella's horse. Arabella half fainted and fell.
Miss Trefoil! Miss Trefoil!
I'm not hurt.
Are you sure?
Quite sure. Don't worry about me, Lord Rufford, if you can help the Major.
Miller's with him and Cummings.
Let me see if I can get up.
Careful.
Lord Rufford put his hand round her waist to support her, and she leant against him with luxurious abandon.
Lord Rufford, I heard the hooves hitting the poor man's head.
Try not to think about it. Be brave.
She was, we must suppose, very sorry for Major Caneback. But she reasoned it was somehow ordained that sooner or later he should fall from a horse and have his head split in two. How great a blessing it was, therefore, that she and Lord Rufford were there at that very moment, so that she too could fall and be rescued by his lordship.
I heard the Major was carried straight to his room.
Yes, I think he was.
I heard he'll never ride again.
I wouldn't be surprised. Mamma, I'm wondering what to do. If I take to my bed, a great deal of interest will be aroused as to my condition, and Lord Rufford will send up flowers and a note or a letter, and you and I could prolong our stay here.
But on the other hand, while you were in bed...
I'd be somewhat hors de combat, yes.
You'd miss the ball.
Yes.
You'd lose more than you'd gain. Time's precious, my dear.
My dear Miss Trefoil, how good to see you. I'm so glad to find you up and about.
I confess that I'm not quite on top form.
But you're being brave as ever.
I hope so. Oh, Lord Rufford. I do believe that the memory of it all will haunt me for as long as I live.
Arabella felt, perhaps Lord Rufford felt too, that her presence at the accident gave her the right to hold a private, one might say intimate dialogue with his lordship. She was using the situation to her greatest advantage, as others in the drawing-room, Mr. Morton among them, could clearly see. And since the ball would offer a further opportunity to develop an affectionate connection with Lord Rufford, Arabella was anxious to argue against cancelling the event.
I've just seen the Major. By the way, he's recovered his senses, such as they were. The ball tonight...
Yes?
I'm doing my best for the Major. I've telegraphed for a surgeon from London, a top man, I'm told. But it's still awkward. A dying man in his bedroom while the dancing goes on below.
He might not be dying.
He might be dead. We'd have to cancel then, surely.
I don't quite see why. If no one was told that he died, the guests would be none the wiser. Still, if you've requested the surgeon, there must be reason for hope. And if there's reason for hope, there's no need to cancel the ball. Did you ask for the Major's opinion on the matter?
I did. He says carry on regardless.
There you are.
Yes.
Major Caneback's happy, and no one's disappointed.
At Dillsborough, meanwhile, there had been sorrow and discord concerning Mary's possible stay with Lady Ushant. Mrs. Masters, Mary's stepmother, was bitterly opposed to the notion, and regarded any continued connection with her ladyship, Ushanting, she called it, to be foolish and inappropriate. Hunting after gentlefolks was not to be encouraged, particularly as Mrs. Masters considered solid, dependable Lawrence Twentyman to be the perfect match for Mary. But Mary's father bravely insisted that Mary must be permitted the journey to Cheltenham, a verdict which prompted Mr. Twentyman to seek a meeting with Mary before she left.
I hope you'll enjoy your visit.
Thank you.
It'll be a great shame not seeing you at Christmas. Absence, they say, makes the heart grow fonder, but I can't be more loving than I am. I'm devoted to you, and I will always be true to you, and Mary, I want you to be my wife. Well, don't I deserve some answer?
You do. You deserve so much, more than I can offer. You deserve a girl who can be as true to you as you'd be to her. A girl who loves you.
Well, you don't hate me, at any rate.
Oh, of course I don't. I like you as much as any friend can like another.
Then I must be content with that. I'll take the chance. I will...
Rufford Hall. So much has happened.
There's been a great misfortune.
There has. And if it wasn't for that, how very, very pleasant my visit would have been.
Guests came to the ball, of course, but not in such numbers as had been expected, and those who were there danced in a solemn, businesslike way, as if they were sacrificing themselves in the performance of a duty. A cadaverous pall seemed to hang over the proceedings.
We had a nice run, did we not? Little Jack carried you charmingly. I'd like to see you ride him again.
No.
No?
It won't be possible, I'm afraid. Mamma and I must leave tomorrow. We must stay in a dull house, and then go on to other dull houses.
I don't know why you shouldn't come back here, though, when this sombre mood has lifted.
No, Lord Rufford. Don't talk about it.
Why ever not?
Such happiness would be too perfect. I daren't even dream of it.
Lord Rufford, we may say with some certainty, was much attracted towards Arabella Trefoil. She might not be the most beautiful creature he'd ever met, but she was certainly his sort of girl. Arabella had made sure of that, just as she'd adapted herself to Mr. Morton at Washington. She knew what she was about.
I suppose there's no hope for the Major.
I fear there isn't.
Perhaps while I'm with the Pilkingtons, you could send me a line if you have some news.
Certainly. You're not returning to Bragton, then?
Heavens, no.
Was Bragton a dull place to stay?
Frightfully.
You know what they're saying, do you? About you and Mr. Morton?
Yes. Oh, dear. One gets married off to pretty well everybody these days, don't you find?
I certainly do. They'll be marrying you and me if we don't watch our step.
Lord Rufford, no. You hardly deserve a fate such as that.
So, you and Mr. Morton, there's no truth in it?
None at all. Mamma and I were in Washington. We met the Senator, we met Mr. Morton, and Mamma promised that when we got back to England, we'd go to Bragton. That's all. But I don't know why you should be asking about such a personal matter.
Well, a fellow likes to be sure how the land lies.
What do you mean?
Mr. Morton over there. He looks a little cross, that's all.
Mr. Morton had been observing Arabella and Lord Rufford. He'd also been conversing with Lord Rufford's sister and had employed all his diplomatic proficiency to suggest a denial of his engagement to Arabella. A week ago he might have confessed all, but his doubts about Arabella were now confirmed, and he felt more inclined to revoke the engagement than admit to it. When Arabella was alone, Lord Rufford having declared that he ought not to monopolise her, Mr. Morton spoke with her in the drawing-room.
Arabella, I'm not happy.
I'm sorry to hear it.
Your conduct is the reason. Your conduct here and at Bragton.
I see.
And since I've no wish to cause distress to you or to myself, I suggest that you either modify your behaviour or else regard our engagement as ended.
What am I to tell you?
You should tell me what you feel.
What I feel is that I can't, as you put it, modify my behaviour.
Then you wish to end the engagement?
I didn't say that. But you can back out of it straight away if you think that you've been injured.
You surely don't expect me to have enjoyed what I've witnessed here.
If you're jealous, Mr. Morton, I can't help that. I'm a single woman, and while I remain so, I'll behave as I please.
Soon after 2:00, the guests had almost all departed. But Arabella hadn't yet retired for the night. In a small chamber next to the ballroom, she and Lord Rufford stood together. He'd taken her hand in his, and she'd not attempted to withdraw it.
Good night, Arabella.
Good night, Lord Rufford. Good night.
He kissed her once more, and as he did so, Arabella congratulated herself on the progress that had been made in a very short time. But much, she knew, remained to be done. Much artifice and endeavour would need to be employed before Lord Rufford and Rufford Hall could be hers.
In Episode 1 of The American Senator by Anthony Trollope and dramatised by Martyn Wade, Trollope was played by Robert Glenister. Arabella by Anna Maxwell Martyn, Lady Augustus by Barbara Flynn. John Morton, Blake Ritson, Reginald Morton, Daniel Rabin, Mary, Penelope Rawlins. Mrs. Morton was played by Richenda Carey, Senator Gotobed by Stuart Milligan, Lord Rufford, Henry Devas, Lawrence Twentyman, Carl Prekopp, and Bearside, Sean Baker. The director is Tracey Neale.
A ball had been held at Rufford Park, Lord Rufford's country seat, not too many miles from the home of Mr. John Morton. Arabella Trefoil had hoped that the occasion would assist her scheme to marry his lordship, a scheme she was pursuing despite the inconvenient fact that she was already engaged to Mr. Morton. But the unfortunate victim of a riding accident, Major Caneback by name, lay in an upstairs room and was poised between life and death. And for this reason, the ball had been a somewhat diminished, inhibited affair.
Such a stupid man. I do wish that he hadn't got himself hurt.
Yes, my dear. But I doubt if his injury stood very much in your way.
Oh, it did, I assure you.
Has it come to nothing, then, with Lord Rufford?
I didn't say that, Mamma. I've had some success. I might have done even better, that's all.
What have you done, my dear?
Good gracious, Mamma, what a question.
What a question indeed. But Arabella was happy to reveal that his lordship had kissed her twice, and that she'd extracted from him a promise to write to her. She'd also discovered a very important piece of information.
He knows the Duke.
Intimately?
Well enough to go to Mistletoe.
By the Duke, Arabella meant the Duke of Mayfair, her uncle. Mistletoe was the name of the Duke's country home.
I also learned that there's to be a big event at Mistletoe in January. Rufford could go if he liked, and I think he would like if I was going too. So I told him that I could go if I liked, that if he was going, I'd go too.
But Arabella,
it won't be easy, of course.
But Arabella, the Duchess won't let me stay at Mistletoe.
True. She might let me, though.
Oh, but you...
Mamma, we can't always travel in tandem. There are too many people, aside from the Duchess, who find you disagreeable and just won't have you.
That's unfair. That's very hard-hearted and very ungrateful.
Well, I am hard-hearted, I have to be. I can't think what there is to be grateful about. I suppose that to secure an invitation, I must ask Papa to speak to the Duke.
That won't work. Your father wouldn't lift his little finger to help you.
I have to try him, nonetheless.
And in the meantime, what are you going to do about Mr. Morton?
Mr. Morton? Nothing.
I saw him talking to you.
I'll allow him to do that.
He looked furious.
He has a right to be. He's been badly used. He's too honest and decent. That's his problem.
But what's to happen? What are the lawyers to say?
They can say whatever they like.
Would you marry Mr. Morton, though, if the money was all settled satisfactorily?
I might. But not in the next 2 months. I can keep him in limbo that long, I think. And if I stand any chance at all with Lord Rufford, 2 months should be long enough for success.
The following morning, John Morton sought out Arabella and her mother. He was returning home to Bragton Park, and he would be accompanied by Mr. Gotobed, the American gentleman of our story's title, who was, you'll recall, engaged in an investigation into English ways. The Trefoils, for their part, would not be going back to Bragton. They'd arranged to be guests at various country residences.
Miss Trefoil, Lady Augustus. I'm leaving now.
Very well.
Mr. Morton, I assume you're taking the Senator with you?
Yes.
I wonder whether Arabella and I might avail ourselves of the phaeton. We need to be at the station at Rufford later this morning.
As you wish.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Morton.
Lady Augustus, it must be said, was very clever when it came to travel arrangements, and seldom paid for much more than her railway tickets.
Well, Miss Trefoil. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mr. Morton.
I'll write to you this afternoon.
How kind.
Then Mr. Morton found Mr. Gotobed, and the two men left Rufford Hall. And John Morton told himself that in all probability he would never see Arabella again. Arabella and Lady Augustus, meanwhile, had already dismissed John Morton from their thoughts.
You'll try and have a few words with Lord Rufford, will you, before we go? In private, I mean.
Most certainly. It would only be natural after what happened yesterday evening.
Almost at the last moment, while Lady Augustus was outside in conversation with the driver of the phaeton, and Arabella was standing in the hall, the occasion arose and was seized.
Oh, how is the Major?
He's a little better, I think.
I'm so pleased. Oh, if only he could live. You'll write me a line or two, as you said you would. About the Major, I mean.
Certainly.
And perhaps when you do write, you can tell me how dear old Jack is.
Dear old Jack will be very sad. Won't want anyone else to ride him.
So, Lord Rufford, farewell.
Farewell.
I wonder.
Yes, Miss Trefoil?
I wonder if you'll remember.
But she wasn't quite sure what it would be prudent to refer to in the way of remembering. And therefore, she briefly turned her face from him, and then put a finger to her cheek to wipe away a tear, or to appear to, and smiled bravely at him, and was gone.
Now that, my dear, is what I call a really nice country house. And everything's managed so well there. None of the fuss that there always is at Mistletoe. If I were creating the world afresh, I couldn't devise a better establishment than Rufford Hall. Arabella, why won't you speak to me?
You're right, it is a splendid house. Life isn't fair, is it? Why should Lord Rufford have been given so much when I've got nothing? I'm twice as clever as he is, and yet I must treat him like a god. He's all very well, but what would anybody think of him if he had an elder brother and no Rufford Hall?
It had been agreed by her father that Mary Masters should spend a few weeks with Lady Ushant at her Cheltenham home. This, despite vigorous opposition from Mary's stepmother, who had no time for those above her station. John Morton's cousin Reginald was pleased to accompany her.
I called at Bragton recently.
Ah, did you see your cousin?
No, he was away. I saw the grandmother.
Oh dear.
She was very bitter against me. Wouldn't let me into the house. So sad and so foolish, these family quarrels.
Reginald and Mary, I should tell you, were sharing the compartment with an old lady and a parrot. The lady was asleep, and the parrot, which was in a cage on the seat beside her, directed its attention towards the two travellers opposite, as if waiting to take up its cue.
Mary, that day when I met you near Bragton and asked if you'd like to walk around the grounds.
Yes, I know. I shouldn't have gone back with Mr. Twentyman. I should have accepted your invitation.
Well, yes, of course.
Gosh.
I'm bound to agree.
Agree.
But I dare say... Quiet! I dare say you didn't realize that it was important to me. Seeing Bragton, I mean, with you. Sharing old memories. But I ought to have been happy for Mr. Twentyman to come with us. He's a fine fellow.
Yes, he is.
I behaved very badly. I was something of a brute, I'm afraid. And I shall be rather brutish to that bird before too long. He's a public nuisance, and if he persists, I'll have to speak to the guard.
But the old lady soon woke up, and after another outburst from the parrot, she threw a shawl over the cage, and the bird shut its beak.
How long will you stay at your aunt's?
Just till Saturday. I don't want to be in her way. Or yours.
Oh, I assure you...
And besides, I practice a sort of hermit's life most of the time. Hardly know how to be civilized anymore.
And you're happy with this existence?
I think I am. But I sometimes wonder whether it's wise.
I'm sure it isn't. People should be together, in my view.
You mean I ought to have a wife?
I didn't mean that particularly.
My difficulty is that I've never been required to work for a living, and so I found myself all on my own. What about you, Mary? Do you have plans?
No. None. What plan should I have?
Well, I was wondering about Mr. Twentyman and whether you're engaged to marry him.
I'm not.
You're not? Good. I'm very glad to hear it.
I don't know why you should be. A minute ago you were saying that he's a fine fellow.
And so he is. But he's not worthy of you, Mary. My aunt, who loves you so much and thinks so highly of you, she'd say the same. I'm sure of it.
What a sweet, dear young woman. The sweetest, dearest creature in the world.
Good heavens, Aunt. Anyone would think you want me married to her.
I want nothing of the sort. By which I mean I wouldn't dream of interfering in a matter such as that.
The sweet young woman in question had gone to bed. It was Friday night. Reginald was due to return home the following morning, and he and his aunt sat talking by the fire.
There is a fellow who's keen to marry her.
I'd be surprised if there weren't 2 or 3.
He's a farmer. Son of old Twentyman, you know.
He can hardly be worthy of her, surely.
Well, I've made inquiries about him, and he seems to live decently enough. He doesn't drink or gamble, but he's not a gentleman or anything like one. Shouldn't suppose he's read a book in his entire life. If he married Mary, he'd degrade her.
What does Mary think?
I'm sure she thinks as I do, and I suspect that she's refused him.
Indeed? I hope you haven't encouraged her.
Encouraged her?
I hope she won't be giving up one suitor because she's been tempted by another.
No.
One who doesn't have any intention of marrying her.
No, Aunt, I haven't encouraged her at all.
The task which Arabella Trefoil had undertaken was far from easy, and she knew as much. Lord Rufford wasn't a marrying man. The odds against Arabella, therefore, were great. But Lord Rufford was fond of feminine flutter and flattery, and with Arabella, as he'd promised or threatened, had also written to her, and his letter afforded less delight. It was very long and rather serious, and therefore it need not be read to you. But the nub of it was that Mr. Morton wished to know whether Arabella still intended to become his wife. Lord Rufford's letter, of course, had done nothing to persuade Arabella that she should declare her loyalty to Mr. Morton, and she offered him no response. A second letter followed.
Dear Miss Trefoil, the matter is increasingly urgent, and I give you warning that if no word from you is forthcoming, then in deference to my honour, I must regard your silence as an indication that you wish to break off the engagement.
Arabella recognised that these stern words required an answer. Money, she reasoned, would have to be invoked.
I do not pretend to be aware as to what my father and his lawyers have requested from you, nor, indeed, have you ever told me what it is that you are refusing. But until this business is settled, you cannot expect me to throw myself into your arms.
This last phrase, of course, was intended to be metaphorical, rather than to describe a fleshly manoeuvre such as had been practised upon Lord Rufford at the conclusion of the ball. It might also be pointed out that Arabella's father knew and cared very little about the marriage settlement, and that the lawyers had long ago declared to Lady Augustus that they doubted if better terms could be obtained. On the same day that she wrote her reply to John Morton, Arabella received a second letter from Lord Rufford, which was less propitious than the first.
I'm at Surbiton's place with a string of horses, and I've had such good sport that I'm half inclined to give Mistletoe a miss, i.e., stay here through most of January and then go straight back to Rufford, where I have a great deal of shooting to do. I'd be so sorry not to see you, but it seems a sin not to stick to the hunting when it's good.
By the time this letter reached her, Arabella had managed, through a remarkable effort of will on her indolent father's part, to secure permission to stay at Mistletoe. You may imagine, therefore, that she was much distressed by Lord Rufford's words.
No! No! He can't do this. It isn't fair. After all my efforts, all my hard work. I won't give up, though.
And she sat and remembered the little chamber next to the ballroom, and those halcyon minutes when her head was on his lordship's shoulder, and his arm was round her waist. They weren't halcyon, of course, because of any feeling of love. Business was always business, and now, it seemed, the success of the venture hung in the balance.
How should I reply? In anger? With affection? I must at any rate be less cautious now. One way or another, I must bring Lord Rufford to Mistletoe.
Oh, yes, Lady Ushant. Mr. Twentyman quite often comes to our house.
Does he have any reason for doing so, my dear?
He calls for Papa when they're going to the club, and my stepmother likes him.
He's a good young fellow, then.
Most certainly.
It was 3 weeks since Mary had arrived at Lady Ushant's. There had been many discussions about Dillsborough and its inhabitants, but it was only now, and as if by accident, that the topic of Lawrence Twentyman had been allowed to enter the conversation.
I suppose there is no other reason for him visiting your house.
Well, to be truthful...
I've always liked you to be that, my dear.
And at last the sluice gates opened, and Mary talked of Lawrence's love for her, and his proposal, and her stepmother's fierce desire that Mary should accept it, and the fact that if she were to marry, she would cease to be a burden to her family.
But you told him no.
I told him I would wait a while. Nevertheless, the answer must be no, I think.
Is there, I wonder, anyone else?
There's no one else.
This she said without any consciousness that she might not, after all, be telling the entire truth. They would help him decide whether to accept the position, but it had, of course, fallen short in this regard, and it was necessary for him to make up his mind without knowing if Arabella was to be his wife. Well, Patagonia was, admittedly, many, many miles away. It was the kind of place which one's colleagues thanked one for going to. On the other hand, the posting meant promotion, and there were sundry Patagonian problems, the solving of which would confer upon John Morton much kudos.
Afternoon to you, Green.
My dear Morton, come in.
Thank you.
How is everything? Life a little dull, was it, away from work?
Green, first name Mounser, was one of Mr. Morton's colleagues at the Foreign Office. He was a thorough gentleman, knew a few languages, and though he was never in his office until midday, and never seemed to do any work thereafter, was considered to be an invaluable member of the service.
You've heard my news, I suppose?
Minister Plenipotentiary, Patagonia. Well done.
Of course, Patagonia isn't exactly the place one would have chosen.
Yeah, I can think of a few places which might be preferable.
But one doesn't like to refuse a step upwards.
The boundary question with Argentina.
Ah, yes.
Now, that could be awkward. You'll be taking a gun, will you?
A gun?
Anyway, congratulations. And thank you.
In addition to news of the appointment, Mounser Green, who always had time to be receptive to such things, had heard rumours of John Morton's engagement, and indeed, of his apparent disengagement. He attempted to draw Mr. Morton out.
Very good climate, I gather, in Patagonia. Young Norgate took his wife there soon after he married. There wasn't much society, but they didn't care.
John Morton offered no reply. He was too good a diplomat to be caught by Mr. Green's clumsy trap.
Well, I'll leave you to your work. Oh, and before I forget, Mr. Gotobed, the senator you were introduced to.
Yes, Mr. Gotobed, champion of fox poisoners, enemy of Lord Rufford.
Yes. If he can find the time, he'd like to attend the opening of Parliament. Perhaps if you have the time, you might be able to help him.
In the quiet of a dull house in Hampshire, Arabella applied herself to the composition of her next letter to Lord Rufford. She began in anger.
My lord, your letter has killed me. I altered my plans at immense personal trouble for the sake of meeting you at Mistletoe. It would be most unkind, I might say worse, if you put me off.
Then, with apparent effortlessness, she shifted her tone.
Please come. Please, it would be such a treat. And I make a full confession, it wasn't Jack I longed to see. There, that ought to bring you to Mistletoe, though of course if Jack's there too, I promise that I'll worship him. Reply, I beg you, by return of post, and tell me you'll come.
Arabella waited in a state of acute anxiety. She'd received a report, by means of a long chain of whispers originating in London and extending through numerous country houses, that John Morton was to be the new minister in Patagonia.
Well, if Rufford refuses me, I'll be the minister's wife. I'll throw in my lot with Mr. Morton. travel with him to the other side of the world. It's not too late. Not quite. I trust.
Should she fail with his lordship, she was resigned to her fate. All her endeavours, all the hours and the artifice she devoted to her appearance.
All the visits, all the smiles, and clever conversations. All the bitter quarrels with Mamma.
All this was to end in Patagonia.
So, Mr. Gotobed, you wish to attend proceedings in Parliament?
I thought it might be instructive.
Well, I don't know about that, but I can fix it for you. Of course, you might have gone straight to Lord Drummond.
No, I'd sooner have dealings with you.
That's very flattering.
Not really. When I last visited the Foreign Office, Lord Drummond had more on his plate than he knew how to get through. Whereas you, Mr. Green, you never seem to have very much at all.
Still, mens conscia recti, as they say.
Well, that's not something I've ever said. I understand English pretty well, but I don't go beyond that.
I simply meant, sir, that as I'm fully confident of my own zeal and industry in Her Majesty's service, your shafts of satire leave me quite unscathed. But tell me, Mr. Gotobed, how are you getting on with the chap down at Dillsborough?
You've heard about all that, have you?
Who hasn't? You've become a national celebrity.
If I have, Mr. Green, then I hope that such recognition is accompanied by a feeling of national disgrace. An American ought not to be required to fight against British injustices. Now, here's this poor fellow Gourley, whose crops have been damaged, and who receives as compensation only what Lord Rufford, the offending party, chooses to award. And when Gourley rebels, he's considered to be a criminal. What presumption on his part, eh? A hovel dweller, complaining against the owner of half a dozen palaces. But, to answer your question, I'm getting on rather slowly.
I thought you might be. Aren't you tired of the business?
No, I mean to see it through. The ins and outs of it aren't easy for a foreigner to understand. Perhaps British law never is, even for you British. But I'm determined to learn.
And determined to pay out while you do so.
If I must. It seems that learning and justice come at a price.
In his search for these twin goals, Mr. Gotobed travelled back to Dillsborough and obtained another meeting with Bearside, the lawyer who was representing Mr. Gourley. The senator, it must be said, had become increasingly troubled about the somewhat dubious character of Mr. Gourley.
What about the dead fox, though?
That's a separate question. That's nothing to do with the damage to Mr. Gourley's wheat.
Is there evidence to link Gourley with the poisoning?
None.
Do you not think he may have been involved?
In such a matter, Mr. Gotobed, I've no need to think.
But I'm paying you money to get at the facts.
You're paying me money to win the case.
Oh, that's not what I understand.
With regard to the money...
That's not what I understand at all.
You received my note, did you?
Yes, I received your note.
An additional £15 would be commensurate with the work involved?
£15? Very well. He's a rogue, is he not?
If you're referring to my client...
I gave my support to him because I sympathized with the plight of a poor man trampled upon by an uncaring, idle, ignorant aristocrat. But Gourley, it seems to me, is a creature more squalid and deceitful than I ever believed could be produced, even in England. Whereas Lord Rufford, in all my dealings with him, has been honest and civil. This troubles me, Mr. Bearside. This can't be right.
Lord Rufford himself, idle, ignorant, but honest and civil Lord Rufford, was less occupied with the intricacies of the Gourley case than with a letter which had reached him, Arabella's clever compound of love and anger, designed to bring him to Mistletoe.
I ought not to go. If I do, I'll be encouraging her to think that I'm only going because she's going and that I'm fond of her and all that. Where might it end? It's very dangerous. I'll go to Mistletoe.
Well, Arabella, you've got what you wanted.
No. What I want is a long way off yet. Oh, Mamma, what a prize he'd be.
Other men have been worthy of you, my dear.
Not as worthy as Lord Rufford. He has numerous fine qualities, in addition, of course, to money and position.
Would you say he's handsome?
Yes, I would. And his appetite for pleasure is beyond dispute. I must win him, Mamma. No effort will be spared, no stratagem overlooked. Of course, being at Mistletoe in the house of my grand relations, that will serve me well, will it not?
I should be there.
Yes, Mamma, but that can't happen.
I should be helping you, offering advice.
Thank you, Mamma. But I think I know what to do.
And if you fail, my dear, what then?
I shall go to Patagonia. Or drown myself en route.
Great were Arabella's preparations for Mistletoe. The wardrobe was replenished, and in anticipation of a single day's hunting, enough apparel and equipment were purchased to last an entire season. Arabella stretched her means and her credit to the very utmost, to ruinous proportions indeed, should the venture prove unsuccessful.
Mistletoe.
An enormous place, with a frontage nearly a quarter of a mile long. There is nothing in England more ugly.
Is this, Arabella, to be the scene of your triumph?
She decided to arrive 2 days before Lord Rufford, in order to obtain time to establish herself in the house, and, if possible, get on agreeable terms with both the Duke and the Duchess. To the Duke she said some pleasant words, which made no significant impression on him. With the Duchess, she was requested to have a private conversation.
I simply wanted to know whether you'd like me to ask Mr. Morton here.
Mr. Morton?
Yes. News has reached me of your engagement to him.
Ah,
a fine and respectable gentleman, I gather, and with a promising future. I was talking to Lord Drummond yesterday. He spoke most highly of him.
That was very kind.
You and Mr. Morton are engaged, I take it?
Well, Aunt, I was, it's true.
Oh.
I'd hoped to tell you earlier. Lord Drummond's favourable opinion notwithstanding, I don't believe that Mr. Morton has conducted himself quite as he should. Mamma says that he's been rather awkward with regard to money matters.
Oh, she does she?
Indeed, if he continues to behave badly, then I must consider the engagement off.
It won't come to that, I hope. You could do a lot worse than Mr. Morton. And if you were invited to Mistletoe, then the little difficulty might be resolved.
I don't see how.
Well, my dear, it's more than possible that your mother has failed to judge the situation right. But if Mr. Morton doesn't visit, perhaps we should have a word or two with Lord Rufford.
Lord Rufford?
His place is near to Mr. Morton's, I believe, and he must have an idea about his neighbour's property and so on. He's arriving here on Thursday. If I were to ask
No. I think not. It would only cause embarrassment. Lord Rufford is an acquaintance of mine.
Is he, in truth?
What I mean is, he and I have met in town and elsewhere, and therefore I've got to know him, as one does.
£25 on top of the 15. The case can't be carried on without it, he says. And that's not all. Bearside claims that whatever the action costs, I'll be liable.
For everything?
That's right.
You could contest liability.
I could, at further considerable expense. And I'm advised that the verdict might well go against me. So, there we have it. There's British justice for
I don't believe that justice has yet been dispensed.
Nor do I.
I mean, Mr. Gotobed, that you've merely been offered advice. You have, as you say, involved yourself with scoundrels, which was unfortunate.
Most unfortunate. You know, I've even heard that Gourley's accepted money from Lord Rufford.
Oh, good heavens.
Good heavens, indeed. His cause may be right, but I rather fear that he may not be worthy of my benevolence.
The following day, the Senator and Mr. Morton paid a call on Mr. Bearside.
Mr. Gotobed.
Morning.
Ah, and Mr. Morton, too.
Morning, Bearside.
I have to inform you, sir, that I intend to be quit of the whole affair.
Oh,
and therefore I'm here to settle terms.
Settle terms? I see. And Mr. Morton's here to help you. Let me tell you, Mr. Morton, I've gone further in this case, out of my own pocket, I mean, than I ought to have done.
Me likewise.
But the verdict will go Gourley's way, I'm certain, provided the money's there to see the business through.
Well, it won't be my money.
It must be. Well, it shall be. You told me at our first meeting that you'd make available whatever was wanted.
Well, no.
You explained your reasons and spoke against iniquitous nobility and such like, and then you said you meant to go on. Do you think I'd have pursued the matter if you'd not made such a promise?
It was not a promise.
Do you think I'd have agreed to represent a man such as Gawley, who doesn't have a shilling to his name, unless there was someone to back him?
I don't believe, Mr. Bearside, that my friend here ever employed you.
He authorised me.
No.
Yes, sir, you authorised me. You said you'd see me through the rest of it. But if you dispute the fact...
I do.
We must put it to a jury.
Thursday evening at Mistletoe, dinner had been served, and Lord Rufford had not yet made an appearance. The fish and the soup were already disposed of, and Arabella was beginning to wonder whether his lordship had succumbed to a treacherous change of mind.
He's found somewhere safer to go to. Someone prettier and more amusing, no doubt, to spend his time with.
But then...
Duke, Duchess, my deepest apologies. I've never known a train run so slowly.
The vacant chair was next to Arabella. This, at least, was a piece of good fortune.
And Miss Trefoil, I find myself next to you. This is surely more than my unpunctuality deserves. I arranged for Jack to be brought, as you requested.
Splendid. I'll be proud to renew my acquaintance.
There's the Fitzwilliam tomorrow, if you're interested.
Of course I am. Is it far?
Holcombe Cross, a bit of a distance, 20 miles by road. Has anyone else talked of going?
Not to me, but then my conversations have chiefly been with the Duchess and Lady Drummond. Surely, though, it would make no difference.
What? Heavens! We couldn't possibly go alone.
Could we not? I thought such nonsense belonged to the past.
I promise you it doesn't, Miss Trefoil. Just ask the Duchess.
The Duchess is the past. And I won't ask her, thanks all the same. I don't require permission from her.
Though she tried hard not to show it, Arabella was resentful. Lord Rufford, she knew, could have hunted elsewhere, and much nearer if he chose. But it seemed he cared more for the chance of a good ride than he did for Arabella's company. She sulked for a little while, and then remembered that such behaviour would do her no good.
So, is that the end of it, as far as Jack and me are concerned?
Well, no. Wouldn't be fair on either of you, eh? Let's think. I was intending to leave on the Sunday, but I could ask the Duke if he'd put me up for a little longer. Then on Monday we might manage the Cottesmore meet. That's only 12 miles away, I believe. Your aunt wouldn't be quite as cross about the 12 as she would be about the 20.
All this had turned out well for Arabella. Not only was she to hunt with Lord Rufford, but his lordship was to stay for 2 days longer than planned. Those 2 days might prove necessary for Arabella, since Lord Rufford worked so hard at his sporting endeavours that it was far from easy to catch him alone.
Good morning, Arabella.
Good morning, Aunt.
Have you breakfasted?
I have, thank you.
Friday. The hunting men had departed for Holcombe Cross hours before Arabella came down to breakfast, though she would willingly have woken at dawn to pour Lord Rufford's tea if she thought she could have avoided suspicion by doing so. As it happened, however, the Duchess had already formed her conclusion about Lord Rufford and Arabella.
I hope, my dear, that you don't find it too tedious today.
Tedious?
The huntsman won't be back for a very long while.
Well, I brought a French novel with me. Let that suffice.
I hadn't realised that you and Lord Rufford...
Yes, Aunt?
...were now on quite such intimate terms. After meeting each other in town and elsewhere, as one does.
I'm congenial company, Aunt. I make friends easily. It's a fault of mine. Though one does find, occasionally, that there are people with whom one just can't get on.
Since it was now clear to Arabella that she'd been detected, she reasoned that nothing more was to be gained by acting the good girl, or trying to. That evening, she sought out Lord Rufford in the drawing-room.
You enjoyed your dinner, I hope?
I did, though we were not as fortunate as yesterday with respect to the seating plan.
No. My aunt saw to that, the old dragon. She must think you're dangerous.
Dangerous? Why?
I'm not sure I should tell you. And I dare say you know already.
Do you think I'm dangerous?
I think, well, You're like a 5-barred gate.
Am I, in truth?
There's a certain jeopardy in attempting it, but no one of any worth will be put off by that.
Saturday was the day of the great shoot, and at 2:00 the ladies went out to the edge of the wood to have lunch with the gentlemen.
I trust you've enjoyed yourself this morning. Contributed your share of the slaughter.
Oh, yes. And I intend to do even better after luncheon.
What of tomorrow? Is it to be hunting or shooting?
Tomorrow's Sunday.
I was aware of that, but I wasn't certain if you could survive a single day without sport.
It's hard, I admit. But there is, I fear, an unhealthy prejudice against Sabbath day fun. So I suppose I must take an unwelcome rest.
You might go for a walk.
A walk?
No one could complain about that.
The Duchess could, if the walk's to be with you. You mustn't forget about the Duchess.
Oh, but I intend to. 3:30 at the path behind the conservatory.
That same afternoon, John Morton paid a visit to Hoppet Hall, the house which had been inherited by his cousin Reginald. John and Reginald were virtual strangers, kept apart at first by the quarrel over property which John's grandmother had begun, and then by the nature of John's work.
Reginald.
John! Well, good to see you.
Likewise.
It's been a while.
Yes, it certainly has. I got your card. Very kind of you to drop by.
Well, I thought I should, since we're almost neighbours now.
Indeed. Sorry I was out. In town, most likely, arranging a few matters. I'm going to Patagonia.
Patagonia? That's a long way off.
I fear we Foreign Office slaves must go a long way off sometimes.
But I'd heard you were about to be married. Are you taking a wife out there?
No, I think not.
Oh, forgive me. I wouldn't have asked. But the way local folk were talking...
Local folk are always talking, are they not?
Yes.
See you. Maybe talk.
Certainly we may.
Well, the fact is, Mr. Morton, I want to sell the farm.
What?
Yes, I'm afraid so. And since it was Morton who once owned it, I thought I'd come to you first, find out if you're interested.
I confess this is a surprise. May I ask, do you have plans?
Nothing definite. New Zealand, perhaps.
New Zealand?
Oh, whatever I do, I won't stay in Dillsborough. I can't.
I'm sorry to hear it. Sorry if anything's happened. You seem unhappy.
I am. And always will be while I stay.
Nevertheless, you shouldn't take a step such as this unless it's absolutely necessary.
Believe me, Mr. Morton, it is. The fact is, I had hopes.
Hopes?
Of marriage.
I see.
And now she's told me plainly in a letter, so that's it.
There's someone else, is there?
No, I expect not. I'm not good enough for her. That's what she reckons, and I suppose she's right. I don't read poetry, I can't talk books with her, or all I can do is tell her how to plant a field of wheat. No, I'm not good enough, and never will be.
The distress caused by Mary's letter to Lawrence Twentyman was not confined to the recipient. Mary had felt obliged to inform her father of the letter, and it was left to the unfortunate Mr. Masters to convey news of it to his wife. Alone with Mary, the stepmother was unable to control her anger.
You've ruined yourself! You've ruined your father! You've ruined the entire family!
I hope not. I think not, and I think also that it's unfair of you to say that I have. You've no right to tell me who I should marry.
Oh, just listen to her. Rights, indeed. Didn't Larry Twentyman have rights? Didn't a decent, well-behaved young man with 500 or 600 a year have the right to ask you to marry him?
Of course he did. And I had the right to refuse.
Oh, stubborn girl. This is what comes of staying at Cheltenham, talking with an old woman with a fancy title and giving yourself foolish notions.
I have no quarrel with Mr. Twentyman, and I've always spoken well of him. but I don't wish to be his wife, and you shouldn't scold me for not loving him.
You're an idiot. An ungrateful idiot. You'll regret this to your dying day. Who's going to want a moping slut like you?
At Mistletoe on Sunday morning, Arabella did her duty and went to church. Then, after lunch...
Arabella, my dear.
Yes, Aunt?
We are getting ourselves ready.
Are we? For what?
The service.
I was at the service this morning.
You were, but the ladies are also going this afternoon. For the service at 3.
At 3?
This event had not been anticipated by Arabella. It threatened her cherished plan.
And what about the men? Aren't they to be summoned as well?
No. The men don't go in the afternoon.
Do they not? They require less church, I suppose. And more billiards. Well, don't wait for me, Aunt. I won't be going.
Why ever not?
I find that one service per Sunday is quite sufficient. Can't change the habit of a lifetime.
You refused her orders?
I did.
Upon my word, Miss Trefoil. I admire your courage.
Girls need courage, my lord, if they don't wish to be sat upon. They need more courage than is required of men.
I wonder what she'd say if she knew you were here.
I don't much care. In her younger days, she must have gone for the occasional walk with some man or other, though I expect the poor fellow found the experience very dull.
Does she know you're to hunt tomorrow?
I haven't told her, and I don't intend to.
I should warn you, there may well be a hard frost in the morning.
And if there is?
No one will go.
But that would be such a shame.
She put her hand on his arm and left it there.
I was so looking forward to riding with you, following your lead, as I did before.
Yes, it would have been nice.
But the hunting, of course, was nothing more than an opportunity for Arabella. And if the opportunity was to be lost, there was all the more need to make use of the present hour, the present minute.
Oh, Lord Rufford, if you only knew how wretched I am.
Well, I can't help the frost.
I wasn't thinking about the frost. Do you remember that man who was at Rufford Hall?
The one who died, you mean?
No, I meant Mr. Morton.
Ah, yes.
My aunt wants me to marry him. She pesters me day and night.
Arabella leant more heavily on his arm, and Lord Rufford, who was constitutionally unable to receive such pressure without reciprocating, moved his hand around her waist. He stood, as it were, at the edge of a precipice, and he feared, and hoped, that he would fall.
Of course you don't really care whether I marry him or not. I know you don't. It's all the same to you. I could marry Mr. Morton, I could die. You wouldn't mind.
Bella.
Lord Rufford fancied, erroneously, that he'd heard Arabella's mother use this diminutive. For Arabella, the loss of her first 2 syllables constituted a small but significant victory.
I came to Mistletoe in the hope of a scurry with you across the countryside, but you went off to Holcombe Cross and left me here, and now you tell me there's going to be a frost tomorrow.
Bella, darling.
Darling? I'm not your darling. You don't even want me to hunt with you. You're hoping for a frost.
Now, that's not fair.
Please take your hand away, sir. I know you don't love me.
Very quickly, and rather sooner than Arabella had expected or hoped, Lord Rufford did indeed take his hand away. The Duchess was hastening towards them.
Aunt, you're out of church very soon.
Lord Rufford.
Yes, Duchess?
I think it's a little dark for taking a walk. Don't you?
Aunt, please.
I am shocked.
Allow me to explain.
Shocked.
That's as may be, but you won't be quite so amazed when you learn the truth. About Lord Rufford and myself, I mean.
What? Is he engaged to you?
He's asked me, yes.
But you're engaged to Mr. Morton.
No, that's off.
When did Lord Rufford propose?
In November, while I was staying at Rufford Hall.
I see. You might have told us all this before. Has Lord Rufford spoken to your father and mother?
Mamma knows.
But not from Lord Rufford himself?
Oh, yes, certainly. He hasn't spoken to Papa, of course, because Papa wouldn't be interested.
Lord Rufford should speak with the Duke at any rate.
Yes, but not yet. He's very sensitive about things. I wouldn't want him to think that he was being challenged as to his intentions. I tell you, Aunt, if he were to change his mind,
It would kill me.
It seemed to Mary Masters that if her stepmother judged her to be a slut, then she could no longer live in the same house as her. She'd therefore written to Lady Ushant, and Lady Ushant's nephew soon brought a message to Mrs. Masters.
It concerns Mary.
I supposed it might, Mr. Morton.
Lady Ushant would like her to stay at Cheltenham.
Again? The girl has only just come back from there. Why would she like her to stay?
Well, my aunt is very fond of her.
We knew that already. Has Mary been communicating?
With my aunt, you mean?
Yes, with your aunt. Has she been complaining about me because I tried to make her see sense over Larry Twentyman? Has she? Has she been corresponding behind my back?
Mrs.
I
Masters...
call that sly. I call that deceitful and wicked. And if I have my way, Mr. Morton, she won't go to Cheltenham. I don't mean to be uncivil, sir, but your aunt does Mary no good. No good at all.
In Dillsborough that evening, Reginald had a chance encounter.
I've been told, Mr. Twentyman, that you're thinking of selling up. Leaving. Can this be true? Yes, it's true. I'm sorry to hear it. Very sorry. You'll have guessed my reason for going? Yes. I thought that I could persuade her. Eventually. But she's not like other girls. She has a will of her own. She does. I've been talking to her father. He believes there may be someone else. Oh, yeah? Yeah, he's not certain who. Various fellows have been mentioned.
And Lawrence went through the list of suspects. A process which caused Reginald to feel as vexed and dismayed as when he'd first learned of Lawrence's interest in Mary. To think that she might be connected with one or more of such highly unsuitable, unworthy characters. To think that she might be ready to fall in love with every fellow she set eyes on.
She hasn't mentioned a name to you, I suppose. But she hasn't. Should you find out who it is, I'd be grateful if you could tell me straight away. I think I have a right to know.
It was still dark the following morning when Arabella got out of bed, opened the window, and came to the conclusion, triumphantly, that the chill in the air was hardly enough for frost. At 9 o'clock, dressed in her riding attire, she went down to the breakfast parlour.
Good morning, Aunt.
Good morning, my dear. I see you're intending to ride. I didn't know you were a sportswoman.
I enjoy a good ride if I have a good horse.
And do you?
Lord Rufford has lent me one of his.
Ah, of course. The meet is at Cottesmore, I believe. I hope there'll be no difficulty getting back.
None at all. Lord Rufford will see to that.
A hunt is not an ideal occasion for words and deeds of love. It was unlikely that Arabella would be asked to become Lady Rufford while in pursuit of a fox. But when the sport was over...
Well now, getting back.
Yes.
The best bet would be to ride to Stamford and hire a carriage from there. Agreed?
Agreed.
Tired?
Very. May I?
Please.
She leant her head against him.
Comfortable now?
Thank you.
You know, we should have got that last fox. We really should.
Lord Rufford. What does this mean?
It means that you're a jolly fine girl.
No, Lord Rufford, no.
No.
If you're a man of honour, you must tell me straight away, do you care for me? Do you love me?
But, of course.
Honestly. And sincerely, I mean. With all your heart.
Of course. And I'll tell you something else. Jack must be yours now.
Are you serious?
Never more so.
She lay against him as if she was about to faint, and wondered whether to encourage Lord Rufford towards a more definitive declaration of love. Such a result would be glorious indeed. But the process would also allow him the chance, if he wished to take it, of disclaiming any proposal. No. She'd make do. The bestowal of kisses and of the horse was a sufficient sign of intent. She would consider herself engaged.
Oh, Rufford. Oh, my dearest.
Arabella, what you did was very wrong.
Was it, Aunt? I thought it was most enjoyable.
I tell you, if I had known that you were to indulge in such behaviour, I would never have let you stay at Mistletoe. Alone, with Lord Rufford in a hired carriage.
Aunt, I'm engaged to marry him. And is a hired carriage so very much more wicked than a private one?
What does he intend to do now?
He intends to marry me. The Duke, I suppose, might speak to him now.
The following morning.
Arabella?
Yes?
Arabella, he's gone. He's left.
Yes, Aunt, I know.
News of Lord Rufford's dawn departure from Mistletoe had already been brought to Arabella by her maid, and she therefore found time to compose herself before the inevitable intrusion of the Duchess.
He told me last night he'd received a telegram. There's some horse he's interested in buying. So typical of the man, always dashing off. I take it he didn't speak with you.
I exchanged a few words after dinner, but he said nothing about leaving early. I was trying to talk to him alone, in view, you know, of our conversation yesterday, but it proved impossible.
Oh, well. I shall write to him, of course. Busy as he is, I'm sure he'll find the opportunity to meet with the Duke before too long.
The Duchess withdrew from the room. She felt that she was now quite certain there was no engagement between her niece and Lord Rufford, or if there was, he didn't mean to keep it. As for Arabella...
I wish that I could have caught him and nailed him down while he was here.
She knew full well that Lord Rufford had run away from her.
But I haven't lost him yet. And I haven't given up hope. I'll write to him. I'll write as many times as it takes. I'll tell him that he's made a promise, and that it's a promise he must keep.
In Episode 2 of The American Senator by Anthony Trollope, dramatised by Martyn Wade, Trollope was played by Robert Glenister, Arabella by Anna Maxwell Martyn, Lady Augustus by Barbara Flynn, John Morton, Blake Ritson, Reginald Morton, Daniel Rabin, Mary, Penelope Rawlins. Lady Ushant was played by Joanna David, Senator Gotobed by Stuart Milligan, Lord Rufford, Henry Devas, the Duchess of Mayfair, Elaine Claxton, Lawrence Twentyman, Carl Prekopp, Mrs. Masters, Jane Whittenshaw, Mounser Green, Jonathan Forbes, and Bearside, Sean Baker. The director is Tracey Neale.
Lord Rufford had departed in haste from Mistletoe, without giving Arabella Trefoil an assurance of his love and devotion, without indeed even so much as a word of farewell. And at first Arabella felt lost, betrayed and disconsolate. But in time she summoned her spirits and wrote a letter to his lordship.
Dearest Rufford, the way you dashed off like that was very horrid, you know.
She was determined to be brave and strong.
My aunt said that you were running away from me. I almost replied that you were running away from her.
She was determined that though her hope might be forlorn, she would cling to it. So she chided him amorously for his disappearance, reminisced about the pleasures of the preceding days, and marvelled at how other womenfolk would all be jealous of her, though she avoided specifying betrothal as the cause of their envy.
He won't reply. Or if he does, he'll manage just a few humorous, half-affectionate lines. I must have a second letter in readiness. A serious letter. I must do everything in my power, move heaven and earth. And I must do it fast.
Arabella's notion was that if she were to fail to win Lord Rufford, she'd still have time to marry Mr. John Morton, to whom she was engaged, and accompany him on his ministerial posting to Patagonia. Mr. Morton himself, it ought to be said, was feeling unwell. His condition was not improved by the need to be much occupied with Mr. Gotobed, the American senator, who, in making his avowed study of English ways, had alienated many, Mr. Morton included, with his critical disposition and outspokenness.
Well, Mr. Morton, won't you ask me what I made of the rector's little event?
I assumed you'd be volunteering the information.
I liked his claret, though not so much as he thought I should. And he was quite wrong, of course. There's no wine here as good as the old Madeiras we get at home. Oh, and I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion at the end.
I'm not sure the rector enjoyed it.
Well, I said nothing that wasn't true.
They were on their way back to Bragton Park, from what the rector of Dillsborough had jocularly called his bachelor party, where the conversation, once the meal was over, had been directed by the American towards the topic of church patronage.
The question, I suppose, is whether you should have addressed the matter at all.
I can't see that I shouldn't. I was merely trying to discover why the task of curing souls and teaching God's word is undertaken by those who have inherited their position, or have had it bought for them.
Yes, and I'm afraid that what you said was very personal to the rector. And upsetting, too.
How was I to know?
You must forgive me, sir. But given what has occurred this evening, and all too frequently since your arrival in England, I'm afraid that I'll find it impossible to be present with you on other social occasions.
Oh, I see. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yes, it is.
I suspect that you agree with much of what I said about your country. What irks you, though, is to hear it from an American. I'm right, am I not?
Arabella, meanwhile, had completed the composition of her second, more serious letter. She read it through.
My dear Lord Rufford, you must forgive me if I offer what might strike you as a word or two of reproach. Your sudden, silent withdrawal from Mistletoe was all the more distressing because you had said so much to me the day before. I ought also to tell you in this regard that when we returned from the hunt, was that not, by the way, a most delightful journey? My aunt interrogated me, and I felt compelled to confess to her that we were engaged.
The word troubled her.
Too blunt? Too explicit?
But to use some vague or indirect expression here would surely defeat her purpose.
Engaged. Let it stand. The truth, I am sure you will agree, is always the best. And now that I have informed the Duchess, perhaps you might send a word to me and tell me, kind-hearted, loving man that you are, that nothing is amiss. Your very own Arabella.
Lord Rufford may have been somewhat foolish in his conduct with Arabella, but he was sharp enough to guess the workings of her mind, and Arabella's 2 letters which were waiting for him, the second epistle in particular, confirmed his fears.
Engaged? This isn't right. This isn't fair. I was riding with the woman. We drove back together alone. She had a fainting fit, or pretended to. Nothing else happened. Nothing of significance was said, and now, all this.
Lord Rufford began to wonder whether his best bet might be to hurry off to Central Africa and embark on an extended shooting expedition. But whatever his ultimate course of action, he must first, surely, make some reply to the lady's letters.
Rufford Hall, my dear Arabella. Oh, God.
He's proposed to you?
Yes, Mamma.
Oh, Arabella! Oh, heavens! Oh, Arabella.
Mamma, please. It's not so incredible. There was a plan, if you recall, and I put it into practice.
But it's all arranged and agreed, is it? Does the Duke know?
The Duke knows, but it's not all arranged, not by any means.
He did propose to you?
Mamma...
Clearly, I mean, unambiguously.
Oh, you wanted something out of a work of fiction, I suppose. Lord Rufford on one knee, asking if I'd do him the honour. What a goose you are. Do you really think he proposed to me like that?
I don't know why he shouldn't. It seems a good enough way to me.
Anyway's a good way if it suits the purpose. He made an offer of marriage, Mamma, and he won't wriggle out of it.
I see. So it's not all agreed and arranged. You have doubts about him?
Doubts? Of course I have doubts. A fellow like Lord Rufford will change his mind half a dozen times if he can. But I don't intend to let him.
Lord Rufford had decided to seek advice about his letter of reply, and with assistance had now achieved what he considered to be an effective document.
Rufford Hall, my dear Miss Trefoil.
The substitution of Miss Trefoil for the original Arabella set the tone.
It is a great sorrow to me that I must reply in a manner which you will not consider to be satisfactory. But you have altogether mistaken me if you think that I have said anything which was intended as a proposal.
The plain truth is, I have had no thoughts of marriage. If unintentionally I have misled you, I can do nothing more than ask for your pardon.
Arabella!
Oh!
Arabella!
You can't come in at present, Mamma.
Lady Augustus had brought the letter to Arabella that morning. She knew who it was from, since the envelope bore Lord Rufford's crest and coronet, and she guessed that its contents must be disagreeable.
Arabella!
Go away! Go away! Such a short letter. Not a word of weakness in it. Not a single word to acknowledge what there was between us. False, insolent, cruel man. Hateful man.
It was easy to hate. She had, after all, never loved. Riding back after the hunt, when she'd leant against Lord Rufford, and he'd held her and kissed her, she'd thought only of the victory she'd achieved, and, of course, of possible accidents to her hair and disorganization of her clothing.
How dare he say I was mistaken? How dare he say he had no thought of marriage? I hate him, and if he won't marry me, I'll punish him for it. Oh, but if I do that, I'll cut the ground from under my feet. Ruin whatever prospects I might still have elsewhere.
It was not too late, she thought, for an alliance with Mr. John Morton. She recoiled with a shudder at the notion of Patagonian exile. But she saw that there was some advantage in getting away from those who despised her, from those she disliked. Her mother most especially.
I'll write to Mr. Morton today. I'll be affectionate, and I'll tell him that money matters, which have been such an obstacle, have now been settled, and that I may henceforth be regarded as his very own. And yet, when she unlocked her door, and Lady Augustus was admitted into the room, Arabella was still undecided.
He's jilted you.
Oh!
I knew he would.
You knew nothing of the kind. Though if you did, why were you so keen to put me up to the affair in the first place?
I wasn't. That's a lie. It's all over then, is it?
I didn't say that.
But the letter...
The letter is the most scandalous collection of impudent words that a man ever sent to a woman. No, Mamma, it is decidedly not all over. I was not mistaken. He proposed to me as plainly as any fellow could, and he won't escape. I must act fast, though. I want John Morton and Patagonia kept in reserve, but they won't wait forever. Of course, if Papa weren't the fool that he is, he'd manage the whole thing for me. Do you know where we'll find him?
In his club, I suppose.
I'll go there and prize him out.
Arabella, I must protest.
I'd rather you didn't, Papa. Please, continue reading.
But I've no wish to be here.
Then we must finish our business quickly, must we not?
After dragging Lord Augustus from the comfort of his club, Arabella had closed him in her carriage and presented him with a letter she drafted.
Continue reading, if you will.
My daughter now informs me that you have repudiated your proposal. This is all true, is it?
Of course it's true.
And her condition is extremely distressing, not least because she may in all respects be regarded as your lordship's equal. You know, he won't take any notice of me.
He shall, Papa. You'll make sure of that.
Arabella,
You'll copy out the letter and you'll sign it and send it. And if the letter doesn't have its desired effect, you'll talk to Lord Rufford in person.
No.
Yes, you must. Just think what they'd say about you if it was known that you'd refused to help your own daughter in such a plight. You'd be thrown out of the club.
You will recall, perhaps, that the master's household had been in great turmoil over the fact that Mary had turned down Lawrence Twentyman's proposal of marriage. Mary, indeed, had been so affected by her stepmother's displeasure that she'd written to Lady Ushant, asking if she might stay with her at Cheltenham. Lady Ushant would have been only too pleased to receive Mary once more, but a complication had arisen, which Reginald, Lady Ushant's nephew, explained to Mary.
I'm afraid you won't be going to Cheltenham.
I won't?
Not next week, at least. The fact is, Lady Ushant is coming to Bragton Park.
To Bragton?
John Morton has been taken ill.
Oh, dear.
His condition is so severe that he's summoned Lady Ushant to see him. She says that she'd like to meet you there if you're agreeable.
But of course I am.
Good. She arrives on Sunday, I believe.
Mary was not alone, it transpired, in being invited to Bragton Park. John Morton had written to Arabella.
He's dying.
Dying? Who? Lord Rufford?
Mr. Morton.
Oh, well, it won't matter very much, I suppose. Not if you succeed with Rufford.
Mamma, how can you say such a thing?
Oh, I beg your pardon, my dear. I wasn't aware that you had fond feelings for Mr. Morton.
I didn't. It's true. Oh, Mamma, I think how badly I've treated him.
No, I wouldn't if I were you. Won't do him any good.
He wants me to go to Bragton.
Oh, surely not.
Yes, Mamma, and you're to come with me.
Out of the question.
You must. I can't go on my own.
I told you, Arabella, I'm never going there again. Not unless he makes the place fit to live in.
Mamma, the man's dying.
So you say, my dear. And you must rush to his side, even though you declare yourself to be engaged to Lord Rufford. What is the family to make of such grotesque behaviour? You can't expect them to help you with Lord Rufford when you're ministering to John Morton.
I don't care. I intend to go. He's a good man. He never treated me badly, despite the way I treated him. He wasn't the same as the others. He took life seriously. He had a career, earned his bread. And he liked me. Loved me, even. Though I hardly deserved his love. All the others, they flattered me and joked with me and were indiscreet with me. But in the end, they all wanted to escape. They'd enjoyed themselves enough. John Morton, though, he stayed true to me. He'd marry me tomorrow, I'm sure, if he wasn't so ill. Oh, Mamma, what a wretched creature I am.
When John Morton was first confined to his bed, his grandmother was informed and came to him. And while she was at Bragton Park, his condition got worse and had become dangerous, so that he now began to see that his time might be very short.
I ought to tell you, I've asked Miss Trefoil to visit me.
Miss Trefoil? After all the unpleasantness of the last occasion, you want her to return?
Yes.
Is the woman's appalling mother to be with her?
I'm not sure.
Well, I have to say, John...
And there's something else. I'm preparing my will.
In the circumstances, that may be a prudent measure.
The property is to go to Reginald.
No.
I'm quite decided.
Impossible. Impossible.
Grandmother.
How can you contemplate such an idea, knowing what you know? Shameful. The man has no right to inherit.
The man has every right. And I know of nothing, Grandmother, which should dissuade me. I'm all too aware, of course, there's been a gulf between the two sides of the family and much hatred promoted by yourself.
Oh.
But I see no reason why it should be visited upon my cousin, or indeed upon Lady Ushant. Oh, yes, and she'll be coming here too.
John.
It's been a while since she was living at Bragton, and it will be good to have her back. For a day or two, at the very least.
Mr. Gotobed, meanwhile, was paying a call on Mounser Green, a colleague of John Morton's at the Foreign Office.
So, Mr. Gotobed, how was the great day? Did you find that Parliament was opened satisfactorily?
Oh, the ceremony was all performed to perfection. But the business side of things left a lot to be desired. Suffrage reform, for instance.
Yes, Senator?
It's a sham, designed to delude the populace. I tell you, Green, if this country of yours doesn't get its house in order, the roof will fall in.
Yes. Well...
If you'd like to hear more... I'm going to deliver a lecture.
Are you?
Wednesday, the 14th of April, St. James's Hall. I'm calling the lecture The Irrationality of Englishmen. It'd be a set of conclusions drawn from what I've encountered during my stay here.
Well, talking of which...
The Gourley affair.
Yes.
The man's a rogue. But that didn't mean he was wrong.
Has the case been abandoned?
He was a rogue.
It has, I assume.
But that lawyer Bearside, who was going to represent him, he was 10 times worse. Do you know, he threatened to bring an action against me.
You paid him off, did you?
Correct. Leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Wretched business all round.
Yes. You'll be glad to get back home. I suppose you've quit Bragton Park?
Left last week. Morton and I had something of a falling out. And then there's been this unfortunate illness.
Most unfortunate. Patagonia's off, I fear. That's a long journey he won't be making.
Coming tomorrow. So here I am, back at Bragton, in charge of the household, not knowing what I should be saying to Miss Trefoil, and not knowing what I should do, except to see that Mr. Morton's cared for. Now tell me, my dear, how are things with young Mr. Twentyman? Have you absolutely refused him?
I wrote to him, as I'd promised I would, and I declined his offer.
Ah, poor fellow. But I won't say a word about the matter. Girls should never be in a hurry to get married, and if you don't love him...
It's quite settled.
There you are, then. Now, my dear, have you seen Reginald? He's in the library, I believe.
Mary was not much inclined to speak with Reginald Morton. She was quite unaware that he possessed any feelings for her, which was not to be wondered at, since he'd scarcely begun to acknowledge as much to himself. And though he'd been advised that she loved someone, he had no idea that such a person might be Reginald Morton. In recent weeks, it must be said, Mary's thoughts about him had become less than happy. She didn't love Lawrence Twentyman, it's true, but Mr. Morton ought not to have said that Lawrence was unfit to be her husband. He ought not to have meddled and imposed himself and disturbed her ease of mind.
Oh, well, when he's Squire of Bragton, he won't think about intruding any more. No, he'll be far too exalted for that, and far too busy with minding the property and finding some stately lady to be his wife. Mr. Morton?
Mary, how good to see you. Your first visit to Bragton, I believe, for quite a while.
Yes.
I do hope you'll visit often.
Thank you, but...
I mean, of course, while my aunt is staying here.
Oh, of course.
I can't say what may happen in the future.
No, indeed.
But whatever shall befall, I trust that you and I won't lose sight of each other. And if I can be of any assistance to you and your family...
Thank you, you're very kind. As to visiting here...
Yes?
I may come over again before Lady Ushant leaves, but I've no wish to be in your way.
Reginald Morton would be above her, utterly removed from her and beyond her reach. If Mary had nurtured hopes, they must be abandoned now.
Arabella, I've brought some news. Good news from your father.
That hardly seems likely.
He's demanded an interview with Lord Rufford.
Demanded? Heavens.
And Lord Rufford has consented. What's more, it's to be held at the Duke's house. The Duke has agreed.
The Duke, I take it, won't be there himself?
No. But to have the meeting in the family mansion, it will seem to Lord Rufford that the full weight of the Duke is behind your father, and that the Duke's wealth, or some of it, will be won by Lord Rufford if he agrees to marry you.
Lord Rufford may not be the most astute of men, Mamma, but I don't believe he'll be deceived quite so easily.
Perhaps not, my dear, but still this is progress, is it not? The very fact that Rufford has agreed to talk to your father is a sign that his resistance is weakening. Success, I feel, is imminent.
Mamma,
And you ought, therefore, to dismiss all thought of us going down to Bragton.
No, Mamma.
Seeing Mr. Morton will serve no purpose. Worse, it might wreck our hopes. What if Lord Rufford found out?
I don't believe he'd be much offended. He could hardly consider it a crime.
But he might use it as an excuse for not marrying you. I think you've given up. I think you've told yourself that there's no chance with Rufford, and you've decided to mend your ways, be a nurse to the sick and dying.
And you, I think, are as hard-hearted as ever. No feelings of regret, or guilt, or sorrow. I'm surprised you never rose any higher in the world.
In spite of her mother's advice, Arabella journeyed to Bragton, and the mother went with her.
One night. That's all. No more. You promise me?
I promise.
And Arabella?
Yes, Mamma?
If he wants to talk about the will, don't refuse him.
They arrived and were received by Lady Ushant. The next morning, neither Lady Augustus nor Arabella came down to breakfast, but at 10 o'clock Arabella was ready, as arranged, to be taken into Mr. Morton's room.
Mr. Morton?
She sat at the bedside and put her hand on his.
I want to tell you something. It will upset you. I want to speak about Lord Rufford, about what happened.
Speak, please.
At Rufford Hall, he and I, and at the Duke's place at Mistletoe, I've been vile and wretched and deceitful. I don't love him. I never could.
But he's proposed to you.
Yes, he's proposed. I should feel ashamed of my tears, shouldn't I? After so many years of studying you, I should have got rid of all that nonsense. I told him everything, Mamma.
Everything? Then you're a fool.
The man's dying.
So they say. But if he recovers, you'll find you've ruined your chances with him.
It's hard to determine whether Lord Augustus or Lord Rufford was the more dismayed about the meeting that was to take place between them. The former's only principle in life was to avoid trouble, and rather than suffer this single inconvenience, he would have preferred to let his daughter be jilted 1,000 times. As for Lord Rufford, he was not much impressed by the prospect of a journey to town and a pointless interview with someone he regarded as a fat old fool, when he might have been hunting instead.
Morning, Rufford.
Good morning.
Lord Augustus was more than half an hour late, owing in part to the need for his first soda and brandy of the day. Lord Rufford, who had been prompt, found that his ill humour was hardly mollified by the delay.
This is very disagreeable, is it not?
Very.
Damn it, what's the meaning of it all? That's what I want to know. Do you not intend to marry the girl?
I admire your daughter exceedingly, but marriage, it isn't in my line.
Not in your line? Well, if it isn't in your line, then why did you say what you said to her?
I said nothing about marriage.
Your conduct, sir, indicated your intentions. You took her hunting, though she never hunts. You gave her a horse. You were alone with her in a carriage. Damn it, you're engaged to her. You were engaged to her when she got into that carriage, and you were even more engaged when she got out. So, what do you intend to do,
I don't intend to marry her.
You don't?
No. As you say, it's very disagreeable. I suppose...
Yes?
I suppose I might as well go now.
The Trefoils had left Bragton Park, and Mrs. Morton had returned. Her grandson's condition, it had been reported to her, had not improved, and it had distressed her to think that Lady Ushant remained at Bragton and was paramount there, and that John Morton might die in her ladyship's arms. Her jealousy was aroused, and who knows, perhaps her heart was softened too.
It must be a great trouble to you, Lady Ushant, being away from your home.
Not at all. I've nothing much there to hurry me back.
Well, I shall stay at Bragton now, till the end. I regard it as my duty.
Yes, indeed, I'm sure it is.
It was kind of you to visit, and so convenient that you should be here just when a business matter called me away, but I don't think I should ask you for any further sacrifice.
It's no sacrifice, believe me.
But I see no reason why you should give up your time.
I'm an old woman, Mrs. Morton. My time is very much my own.
Lady Ushant, I have to say, it's hardly right in a situation such as this that there should be a stranger in the house.
A stranger? My dear father was the owner of Bragton Park. I've lived here for many more years than you.
I meant a stranger to my grandson.
But if I were, why should he have summoned me?
Whatever response Mrs. Morton might have managed, there was no time to offer it. The door opened and Reginald entered. He was a daily visitor to the house, and though he knew that Mrs. Morton was present, he didn't consider that there was any need for him to be announced.
Good morning.
Mrs. Morton, my nephew, Reginald.
Mrs. Morton said nothing. She looked sternly at the intruder and stalked out of the room.
I did all I could.
All you could?
Nonsense. He claims he never said a word about marriage. So who am I to believe?
Your own daughter, I'd have hoped.
Why should I? Why shouldn't his word be as good as yours? If it isn't, the fault's yours for putting faith in the fellow.
Oh.
You should have got his proposal in writing.
So that's that, is it? He's not even to be punished.
What do you suggest? I'm to take a stick to him, am I?
Any other father would.
Any other father would have a daughter he could trust. I'm not sure he was engaged to you at all.
Oh.
Anyway, I won't be interfering anymore. Oh, I've spoken with my brother.
Will he interfere?
No.
I thought not.
He says an appeal should be made to Lord Rufford's feeling. Such an appeal, he says, should come from a woman.
Well?
He suggests it should come from you.
Lord Rufford had begun to believe that his meeting with Lord Augustus constituted the end of the matter, and that nothing terrible could be done to him now. You may imagine, therefore, that when a letter arrived from the Duke of Mayfair requesting that a second interview be held with Lady Augustus, he was appalled and disgusted.
Monstrous! It's outrageous! Am I to be interrogated by each of that despicable family in turn? Enough! I won't go.
He went. After better counsel had prevailed, Lord Rufford decided that he must deny himself another hunting opportunity. The run of the season, it was expected to be, and he travelled up to London once again and paid another call at the Duke's mansion.
Lady Augustus, I hope that you're quite well.
Lord Rufford, you can hardly expect that I am, since you have plunged me and my daughter into a state of misery too deep to be fathomed.
Lady Augustus had rehearsed admirably. Her countenance and her words were prepared so that they might have the maximum effect upon Lord Rufford's sensibilities. But he was unmoved. He even attempted a riposte of his own.
I understand that your daughter has been engaged, perhaps still is, to Mr. John Morton.
That was finished long ago.
But she went to see him only recently.
The man is on his deathbed. Arabella saw him at his request, because he'd behaved badly to her.
Oh, really?
She wanted to offer him her forgiveness.
Ah, yes. If only she could do the same for me. If only I could somehow atone for all this trouble.
It was at this stage in the proceedings that an idea presented itself to Lord Rufford. A low-minded idea, it must be admitted. The mother and the daughter, he'd become aware, were continually distressed by lack of funds. Might some pecuniary recompense be offered in return for an end to all interviews? The same low-minded idea, by some strange synchronicity, had occurred to Lady Augustus, too.
There might be a...
Mary? Are you going back to Dillsborough?
Yes.
May I walk with you?
Of course. Lady Ushant thinks your cousin's no better.
She's right, I'm afraid. She's moving out, did she tell you? She'll stay with me at Hobbit Hall.
Yes.
When she's gone, the atmosphere at Bragton will improve, she says, and the invalid will have more peace of mind. Not too certain myself. I wish I knew how it would all turn out.
You must surely be prepared for the worst. With respect to your cousin, I mean.
Yes.
And after that, you'll inherit Bragton Park.
So it would seem. And yet I've no desire to do so. No aspiration to be squire of Bragton. Then again, what's so fine about my present hermit existence? What do I do as it is?
My view...
Yes, Mary?
My view is that being squire ought to be a fine sort of life. The very best of lives. And more than that, being squire should be your duty.
When Lord Rufford reflected upon the meeting with Lady Augustus, he decided that he'd been foolishly generous, and he promised himself that he would never again kiss a young lady in a carriage. Lady Augustus, meanwhile, who believed she'd won a great victory, was soon told otherwise.
£8,000?
I don't think he'd have paid any more.
I'm to be sold, am I? My reputation, my character, my hopes... sold for £8,000?
It's to be all yours, my dear. Beyond your father's reach or mine. Arabella, this is better, surely, than either of us could have hoped.
I won't touch a farthing of it, not a farthing.
Poor Lady Augustus. In the past, she and Arabella had moved with equal steps along their unsalubrious path. They'd pretended to be in well-known hotels when they were skulking in humble lodgings. They'd fished for marital nibbles in turbid waters, and they'd told mutual falsehoods to unbelieving creditors. But now the daughter was overcome with honest indignation and stood upon the little that remained of her dignity.
He'd have married me sooner or later. He wouldn't be prepared to pay all that money if he didn't know what the alternative would be.
Arabella, you have to live. You're not getting any younger. There isn't a man in London who doesn't know how long you've been looking for happiness.
Hold your tongue.
We have to face facts. You and I can't continue as we were.
You're right about that. I'd sooner be in the workhouse. You've betrayed me, Mamma. Ruined me.
Nonsense. I found £8,000 for you, and this is how I'm thanked for it. 12 years I've slaved for you. 12 years of constant sacrifice. Arabella, speak to me.
What's the use? You know what I think of you. We should go our separate ways. If we stay together, we'll kill each other.
I tell you, Arabella, you've killed me as it is.
I got your note, Lady Ushant. What is wrong?
I don't know. Nothing, I hope. But I confess that I'm afraid. Your father was here yesterday. It was Mrs. Morton who sent for him, and he was with her the entire time, I'm certain. Did he talk to you about his visit?
No.
Nor should he, of course. He's a respectable and trusted attorney.
You believe it was to do with the will?
Yes.
If it was, why should you be afraid? Why should Mrs. Morton not be acting on her grandson's authority?
Oh, she might well be. Who knows what she may have discussed with him? Who knows what Mr. Morton in his feeble state may have agreed to? I've said more than I ought, but I'm all too aware how fierce that woman's hatred is towards Reginald, how vehemently she opposes the idea that he should be heir of Bragton. Oh, Mary, what am I to do?
Afternoon, Mr. Green.
Mr. Gotobed.
Allow me to present you with an invitation to my lecture.
Oh, so grateful.
Well, you got me into the state opening. A front row seat for the irrationality of Englishmen was the least I could do.
I think I shall still be in the country.
Where else might you be?
Patagonia.
Patagonia?
Yes. Expatriation at last. It has to be admitted, Patagonia isn't exactly the place one would have chosen. But one doesn't like to refuse a step upwards.
Oh, and this is settled, is it?
It is.
Oh.
Even if Morton pulls through, and the news isn't too cheery, he couldn't be considered. Talking of Morton, I met the young lady the other day.
Miss Trefoil, you mean?
Interesting creature.
Mr. Green, I've heard numerous examples of English understatement during my stay here, but that's the best. Where did you encounter her?
At my aunt's. She's staying with her in Portugal Street. My aunt, I've discovered, is a very distant relation of Miss Trefoil.
Is Miss Trefoil's mother staying there too?
No. From what I've learned, mother and daughter have become estranged.
Since Arabella's arrival, Mounser Green had visited his aunt's house every evening, and Arabella never doubted that she herself was the cause of this regularity.
Mr. Green.
Miss Trefoil.
Mr. Green, how are you?
In fine fettle.
Old habits, she found, died hard. But with Mr. Green, she plied her lures in an unfamiliar mode, encouraging him almost to weep with her rather than flirt. On this particular evening, she also required a promise of help.
Mr. Green, I've a great favour to ask. I wonder if you'd call for me here very early tomorrow morning at 6.
6? Good Lord. That is a great favour. And where must I take you?
The station at King's Cross. And you're to ask me no questions.
Very well. But I hope, forgive me for saying so, I hope you're not intending something rash.
John Morton died at 4 o'clock on the morning of Friday, the 5th of March. By Sunday, his grandmother had locked and sealed up all the cupboards and drawers in Bragton Park and had gone to London. The funeral took place on the Thursday, and the will was read out after the ceremony. The bulk of the property was to go to Reginald Morton. He was to be squire of Bragton.
So where were they?
Mrs. Morton had them.
What?
She took them with her when she left. Every single key in the house. It's as if she still hoped somehow to thwart the will. But the lawyer kindly retrieved them.
The woman tried her hardest, that's certain. It's fortunate, perhaps, that your cousin didn't leave his death till later.
Yes, Aunt. But for better or worse, the will was unchanged. So let's have no more unpleasant speculation.
Tell me, Reginald, do you like Bragton Park?
I don't know. I'm not sure I like what it means, or ought to mean. Do you think, Aunt, that I've left it too late to ride to hounds or learn how to shoot?
You'll need to entertain at least.
Yes. The rector will have to come, and all the other parsons.
Lord Rufford, too.
Oh, heavens. What on earth would I say to him? I won't live here.
Of course you will.
No, not till I'm married. I'll stay at Hoppet Hall. But listen, this is your proper home, and you love the place.
Reginald.
No, you must return to Bragton for good. I insist.
Dearest Reginald, you will marry, will you not?
Men of property, I believe, are expected to.
Yes, but when you marry, she'll be someone you love.
Arabella was attired simply, but by no means dowdily, in a black silk dress, and she'd taken some trouble with her face and hair. Her purpose was revenge, but she still had an eye to the possibility, remote though it was, of securing marriage with his lordship. The door of Rufford Hall was opened to her by a servant who remembered her well from her previous visit.
Miss Trefoil?
Is Lord Rufford at home?
I believe he is.
Arabella moved past the servant and stood in the hall. Her unspoken message was that wherever Lord Rufford might be, she intended to find him, and she wouldn't leave until she'd succeeded. If he ran away, she'd run after him. This was bravery of a sort. It was more than Lord Rufford possessed, at least.
Where is he? Is he at luncheon already?
I think not. If you would care to wait...
No, I won't. The matter is of the utmost importance. Tell me where he is. Tell me.
He's in the park.
Lord Rufford was standing with a small group of labourers with whom he'd been organising the extension of the fence. In due course, he became aware that a woman was approaching from the direction of the house.
No. Surely not.
As Arabella advanced, she decreased her pace, as if certain of her prey.
Surely not. But it is. It is.
The nearer she drew to him, the more majestic she became. Her veil was thrown back. Her head was held high.
Oh, God, what am I to do?
One expedient would have been to vault over the fence and escape from her. Lord Rufford might indeed have chosen this course of action, were it not for the men who were there to see it. He decided that the best he could do was to leave them to their work and come forward to meet Arabella. The succession of interviews, it was clear, was not yet over, and this promised to be the most painful.
Lord Rufford, you have treated me most shamefully.
If you mean about the offer of money...
That vileness was not your worst, as you're fully aware. Lord Rufford, in the carriage on the way back to Mistletoe, you took me in your arms. Why? What did you mean by it? You said you loved me, and I believed you. You swore that you loved me with all your heart. Were you lying?
Of course he was.
Were you?
He knew it, and so did she.
Well, sir? Will you give me no reply? Are you unable to account for your words and actions?
It seemed to Lord Rufford that anger made Arabella very beautiful. More beautiful than ever. He almost regretted not marrying her.
Heavens above! I never met a man so incapable of speech. But if you were to open your mouth, you'd only tell another falsehood. You're a liar, sir. A coward, too. As was clear enough when you fled from Mistletoe. From that day to this, you haven't dared to meet with me. Haven't dared to confess the truth. Miserable, despicable creature. You may be a lord, but you can't be called a gentleman.
She turned and walked away towards the park gates, and as she walked, she wept. It was all over, all gone. Rufford had escaped her, and John Morton was dead. All her hard work, all her plans and devices, they'd come to nothing.
What is this? No.
When she returned to her lodgings, she found a letter waiting for her. It revealed that subsequent to the death of Mr. John Morton, she was to receive £5,000, as well as Mr. Morton's watch and rings.
No. Impossible.
For a moment or two, she thought that she should refuse the money, just as she'd rejected Lord Rufford's. Poor as she was, greedy as she was, she found Mr. Morton's legacy a gift of bitterness.
I treated him so badly. So cruelly. And I'm still to be rewarded.
It was the middle of March. Reginald had been in London and was expected back soon. Mary had been helping Lady Ushant with household matters, but found time to wander around the grounds at Bragton and to think about things. She preferred to think about the past, but was unable to keep her mind from the future.
I won't begrudge him his inheritance. But if Bragton hadn't gone to him, might I not have won his affection in time?
She stood on the little bridge that was on the edge of the estate. It was here, months before, that she'd come upon Reginald, and they'd talked, and they'd walked a little way, until Lawrence Twentyman had appeared.
But as it is, Mr. Morton doesn't love me. Any more than I could love poor Lawrence.
And before too long, she thought he'd find a wife. He'd find that stately lady she'd envisaged for him, and he'd make her mistress of Bragton Park.
Oh, dear.
A tear ran down her cheek and trickled onto the wooden rail of the bridge.
Well, Mary, shall we stroll around the grounds?
Mr. Morton, you startled me.
My apologies. Would you like to take a walk? I seem to recall that the last time we were here... Mary, is anything the matter?
No.
You've been crying.
Only a very little. One's permitted such an indulgence when one's alone.
But why should you be sad? Has somebody hurt you? Been unkind to you? Is it somebody perhaps who's dear to you? A sweetheart? Who is he?
I don't believe you have the right to ask.
No, I haven't. I'm sorry. But I must tell you, Mary, I wish it were me.
She stared at him. She wasn't sure if she understood the meaning of what she'd heard. But he stretched his hand out towards her and tightly grasped her hand, and his face came close to hers. Arabella had to look to the future. She wouldn't go back to her mother, she was sure of that. She recognized, however, that John Morton's money was not enough to keep her in great style, and after the scandal of recent months, society would surely close its doors to her. Who, she wondered now, would invite her to stay? Where was she to find new lovers? Where, indeed, was she to find a husband?
Mr. Green, I've been in conversation with your aunt. She's telling me all about Patagonia.
Ah, then your knowledge of the place exceeds mine.
When do you leave?
May.
So soon? It's strange to think, is it not, that I might have been going there.
Yes, indeed.
Poor Mr. Morton. Dear man. I wonder, by the way, if your aunt has told you my news. Mr. Morton has left me £5,000.
5,000? How very nice for you.
And how very nice for Mounser Green, if it were to come his way. 5,000 was hardly a fortune, but it would pay off various debts he'd incurred and send him across the ocean a free man. He opted for marriage. And so did she. On Wednesday, April the 14th, at St. James's Hall, Piccadilly, Elias Gotobed delivered his lecture. The audience was large, for the senator's promise to set England right had created much attention.
I'll say nothing about the monarchy. I doubt whether there are many of you who understand what its precise powers and purpose are. So a foreigner can surely be excused for his befuddlement on the matter. Regarding the House of Lords, however, I'm in no doubt. Hereditary legislature is an absurdity, a violation of rights. I tell you, the people of this country can never call themselves free while this anomaly persists. What? You can't bear to hear me, is that it? I must go back home and tell my friends that your sensitivities are too tender, that you can't endure well-meaning comments, that you refuse to stomach the truth about your nation and all its irrationalities and worse. The ridiculous custom, for instance, which permits 100 harum-scarum hunters to trample down crops and fences and charge through domestic gardens. The curiosities of church patronage and military promotion. The vagaries of the civil service. The shortcomings of your educational system. The plight of your laboring classes. Oh yes, I've learned a lot over the past few months.
I'm sorry you weren't allowed to finish.
So am I.
Was there much more?
Oh, much more.
I must say, I admire your tenacity and courage, Mr. Gotobed. But I suppose one has to be a little cautious when informing an audience of its faults.
Well, you people tell us about ours pretty often. Your country has some things to recommend it. For instance, there's one, look. The splendid pillar box for the posting of letters. Anyway, I'll be setting off home in a couple of days. And you'll be leaving soon, I suppose.
Yes, but I must marry first.
Oh? Anyone in particular?
Miss Arabella Trefoil.
Miss Trefoil? Well, extraordinary. Now, there's a topic for me. The English way of marriage.
The wedding was a very quiet affair. And when it was over, Lady Augustus wept bitter tears, since now that Arabella was married, there was nothing left for her to do. And then, a few days later, Reginald Morton and Mary Masters, who had known each other somewhat longer than the other couple, they became man and wife, and took up residence at Bragton Park.
Well?
Well.
You are a husband, my dearest. And the squire, too.
Yes. Strange prospect. Thank heavens I have the squire's wife to help me.
If you'll allow me now to peer into the future, I imagine that Lord Rufford will find it advisable, after the dreadful business with Arabella, to make a decent marriage. And when he does so, he won't hunt or shoot nearly as often as before, and he'll go to church regularly, and he'll get fat, and he'll even surmise sometimes that he might have done better by marrying Arabella. As for that good lady and her husband...
I wonder what you'll think of Patagonia.
Not a lot. One place tends to be much like another, I find.
You'll have duties to perform. Life won't be endless fun, Mrs. Green.
It never has been, I assure you of that. And such pleasures as were mine have generally come at a price. I've worked hard over the years. Oh, yes. I've worked harder, Mr. Green, than you can possibly imagine.
In the final episode of The American Senator by Anthony Trollope, dramatised by Martyn Wade, Trollope was played by Robert Glenister, Arabella by Anna Maxwell Martyn, Lady Augustus by Barbara Flynn, and Lord Augustus, Gerard MacDermot. Reginald Morton was played by Daniel Rabin, Mary by Penelope Rawlins, Lady Ushant, Joanna David, John Morton, Blake Ritson, and Mrs. Morton, Richenda Carey. Lord Rufford was played by Henry Devas, Senator Gotobed by Stuart Milligan, and Mounser Green by Jonathan Forbes. The director was Tracey Neale.